is up, everyone, and welcome once again to Game Night. This is episode 7, I believe. I am joined with Eric Kane, and for the first time ever in this Budding Cog podcast, we've talked about it, but we're delivering this time. Lord Cognito, introduce yourself, and then I'll do my introduction. You know what? I'm just going to do it. The purveyor of the Lords of Gaming, one horseman of the Iron Lords podcast, holding down one half of the Defining Dukes, and one hell of a dignified gentleman, Lord Cognito, ladies and gentlemen.
Much love. Appreciate it. Much appreciated. I'm in the realm of the game night, the Rose experience. Big fan of Lord Eric himself as well and his work, forms and writing. And it's something we've been planning for a while, man, right? And I can't wait to talk some Sega talk. And me and you have some mutual friends, Jason, Lord Steven and other things of that nature. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here. A lot of good stuff in game, a lot of topics to talk about in the industry. So I'm hyped, man.
Yeah, and Eric, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
You gelled your hair for the occasion, I can tell.
I did. Every now and then I clean up, you know?
Yep. Out of the three of us, you have the most hair.
I shaved my head a little. The Viking thing, you know? And yeah, I used hair product. It's almost a miracle, I know. But it can't just be a bum. I am wearing pajama pants right now, though.
There we go.
Baby food in mine, and that's about it. Yeah. So listen, I'm really excited to get together. We got Cog here. We rarely get a chance to have like some Xbox expertise on this podcast, and there's been a hell of a lot going on. We sort of missed the boat, Eric and I, because we can get lazy and life gets in the way with kids. But we got a third chair here to help us through it, and someone we can grill on everything that's been going on.
And a lot's going on.
Yeah, a lot
with Xbox. It's kind of interesting. There's a lot of very strong opinions on what's happening with Xbox right now. Yeah.
You know what? Before that, Eric, I just want to get into why do you hate women and what is your problem with that?
Yeah. So what we're talking about now is True Detective Night Country. I will admit, I have. It's funny. This is a gaming podcast, but I have moved my own personal focus to television a lot. You know, I cover a lot of TV shows and whatnot now. And so, True Detective Night Country. I don't know if did you guys both watch that?
Oh, I did.
Yeah. Have you watched any did you watch any of the True Detectives or?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. All right. No worries. Anyways. Yeah. So the reason I hate women apparently is because I didn't like this season of television. And that's just the internet, man. Like, if you don't like a show that people are like, well, it's strong women, then you don't like women, apparently. But no, I just think it was a pretty bad show, which is sad because I love Jodie Foster. And I think actually she was pretty bad in this. And I think that's mostly the script's problem. But I did get into an argument online with one of the other main leads in that show, which is just another example of how the internet is fucking crazy. And we should all just quit while we're ahead. Get off Twitter. Burn your phones. Become a Luddite.
You have a different opinion.
She used to be a boxer, you know?
Yeah, no, she's a bad. I mean, she's kind of like
a badass.
You know what's really funny is I made a video about her and I'm Callie Reese. She's I think she's she was MMA like boxer style, and she was in this role, and you know she is a badass human being, and I have nothing against her as a human being. I just didn't think she had a great character or great script to work with. I made a video called Boxing with Callie Reese, and one of the responses on Twitter was like, she'd kick your ass. And one of the funny things is that in the video I said that she would kick my ass. So anyways, no, that was a whole like Twitter drama.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know.
That's all Twitter's good for is, Twitter drama.
A lot of beef.
Like I liked the show through about 3 episodes, but the last 3, it was brutal. Like, I was a big fan of season 1, obviously, and season 2 took a great season. But in retrospect, I actually like season 2 better than season 4, at least just from an acting standpoint with Colin Farrell.
I just rewatched it, and it was actually pretty good.
And
it's kind of like Rachel McAdams and
There's so many
Actually,
absurd turns in True Detective season 4, but yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I'm watching you spar with these people. I'm like, man, Eric,
I gotta get off. I
you
just
gotta
gotta turn
stop
off the
it.
Twitter. I gotta
You
turn it
can't
off.
help yourself, brother.
No, I know.
You
It's
can't.
like an addiction. I have an addictive personality. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Getting
No,
into it.
I rewatched season 2 of True Detective, and there's a scene where Colin Farrell's character goes to the house of a kid who is
Yes,
bullying
that's
his
the
kid,
famous scene, yeah.
and he goes and he beats up this kid's dad, and then he tells the kid that if he ever bullies his son again, he will. I'm paraphrasing here, but
Just say it.
he will butt fuck his dad with the head like of his decapitated mother or something. It's fucking
Oh, God.
crazy. That shows that season is crazy. So I don't know. Anyways, pardon my French, but yeah, True Detective. It's
The
wild. Go
TV
watch
talk,
it.
yeah.
You got me interested. It has my attention now.
No, you should watch True Detective. It's actually really good. Season 3 is really, really good.
That's
Dealing
Marshall
with
Ali.
yeah, he's
okay.
fantastic
He's
in
up in
it.
it? Yeah.
He's fantastic, and it deals with his loss of memory and sort of
Yeah.
like his dealing with this case that he's been consumed by for decades, and his
It's just,
gradual
I mean,
loss of
it's true
memory, and
crime.
it's really
So,
really powerful. I think, yeah.
Yes.
season 1 is famous with McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. It's
Mhm.
iconic. It's such a
Yeah.
for me, in my recollection, it's probably the best standalone season of television that I've seen. I mean, maybe there's one
It's up
that's
there.
right up there with it. I just can't recall.
Yeah, it's up
So
there.
every season subsequently is measured by this one season of television,
And they
and it
can't live
goes
up.
from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mount
But yeah,
Rushmore.
anyway, video
I got
games.
you.
I just thought it was hilarious watching you go back and forth with that stuff.
Yeah, I love getting dogpiled on Twitter. It's one of my kinks. What can I say?
So what's been going on with you, Cog? Like, what's new? You're a
Yo.
busy man. A lot of irons in the
Yeah.
fire, so to speak.
Yeah, man, it's a busy time. It's a busy time. This year's been so much going on. Obviously, on the content creation side, still doing our launch podcast, still doing Defining Duke. We got our first live show, which would be cool. You know what I'm saying, at the end of the month, but opening for Sacred at 300, which is fun. And then also PAX East. So just kind of one of my favorite things. People realize I like podcasting, but actually I really like interviewing developers the most, trying to get from the source, especially like at the PAXs, the E3s, because to me it's almost like an album release party that no one knows about, like these future games that come out and people don't realize, how big they are. I remember when we covered Fall Guys. One of my writers were like, "Yo, this is gonna be something, I'm telling you." And I'm sitting like this. I was like, really? And then it blows up. I remember
Yeah.
Kingdom Come Deliverance. They were just like a Kickstarter and they blew up. So seeing like the AA, the indie scene as well specifically, and then any like new game announcements. But yeah, I've been busy playing a lot of games as well. A lot of stuff going on. I know we're gonna talk about that part as well. But
Is
yeah,
PAX something you go to annually now? Is that something you're attending annually?
Yeah, PAX East is kind of where we made our bones. So
I
a
thought so.
lot, yeah, a lot. I remember when Sony used to attend, we got a chance to interview Bend Studio. That's right when Days Gone came out. And I was really excited to see them talk about the tech and the zombies, coming through the pile-up mechanics and all that stuff was pretty cool.
That was a pretty fun game, actually.
Yeah, I liked it.
It was, it's a little generic, but it was like fun generic, it did what it sort of set out to do well.
Yeah.
That's
no,
cool.
for real.
That's cool.
I thought it deserved a sequel.
Yeah. I mean, I think it
it
would do
definitely
well.
did, especially with the tie-ins in the ending. Like, I mean, it's not a mystery that the developers did a disservice by releasing it to critics without that patch, which was seemingly integral. Because it
That
ran like
happens
shit.
a lot.
I know,
actually.
Cog, you don't curse, but we curse.
No, you're good.
Not like crazy often, just here and there.
I never fucking curse, dude.
You get the point.
What the fuck are you talking about? Sorry.
But
we lose. Yeah, I'm with it. Let's go.
But I mean, when I saw Days Gone, I didn't really understand why it existed, especially with The Last of Us, and it being like, if it was a second or third party game, maybe, but it being a first party game, I was like, really, it seems redundant. And I really liked the initial name for the game. It was called Dead Don't Ride. And then they changed it afterwards to Days Gone.
I did not know that.
I thought it was a lesser name. It was just like what was that Ubisoft game?
Assassin's Creed.
No, well, Phoenix Rising. Remember the original name of that? It was called Gods and
Gods and
Monsters,
Monsters.
Gods
Yeah.
and
which
Monsters.
was an infinitesimally like better name. It just works better. And then they go to Phoenix Rising, Immortal, whatever. It just
Yeah.
doesn't work. But anyway, Dead Don't Rise seemed like such a dope name. Like it
Mhm.
just seemed to fit the, motorcycles, biker stuff right on.
Actually, that would be a good like DLC name. Days Gone, Dead Don't
Dead Don't
Rise.
Rise.
Actually, that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
kind of like a blues song, right? Like lyrics
I'm
out of it. Anyways, yeah, that could
But
have
no
been
yeah,
doubt.
if they were to release that game with the patch and it could have got out over that critical hunt, but commercially it seemed to sell. But at that point, it seemed like Sony was relatively done. They took
Yeah.
like 8 years to make that game, and I just don't know exactly what's next for them. But it's a shame because the ending of Days Gone, spoilers everyone, it has like that hint of tie-in with Siphon Filter. So it would have been cool to see what they did with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, to your overall question, PAX was definitely something that we would always attend. I remember when Borderlands, I think 2 or 3 got announced there. I remember when Microsoft had a bigger presence. So it's gotten smaller since post-pandemic, but now it seemed like they're starting to try to ramp back up again. So we try to hit it up every year.
That's
That's
exciting.
cool.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Iron Lord's energy. I gotta say, you guys got your own like humor and style. I love the Lord's thing. I remember when I initially met you, like, does it have like a? Because you're from New York, right?
Yeah, from New York, Bronx, New York.
Yeah, and it had like that Wu Tang sort of slant.
Yeah,
And actually, like, you didn't know me. I mean, technically, we don't know each other here, but we've gone back and forth. Like, yes, Jason, it has a bit of that urban slant. And,
Yes, let it What's up, Lord? Because that's a New York thing too. Because it had double purpose. Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah,
We used to get that a lot for sure.
yeah.
Mhm.
So you know what? We'll do some of the what we're doing and ins and outs. I don't like to like formally interview people other than what they. I mean, listen, you've done the background thing with probably a bunch of people, and everyone knows how you started and got forward. I'd rather just integrate you as part of the podcast and maybe throw into some of your background in as we go. But let's just jump right into the Xbox stuff. You know what? I'm gonna ask a banger right off the top.
Let's get it.
Did Game Pass inadvertently kill Xbox?
It's a good question. Good question. Don't know yet.
Was it a gift and a curse?
I think honestly, the acquisition of ABK could be viewed as a gift and a curse. Only reason because I definitely think there is a pivot now. It's clear that there is a pivot in the way they're operating. So with Game Pass, their whole thing is okay, we're gonna aggregate, we're gonna get all these publishers, we're gonna get all these studios, we're gonna feed this service and then disseminate that out, and then we'll get this revenue this way. And this is how Phil is able to sell this to Satya on the vision, right? But clearly, right around that timeline during the ABK, trial, FTC hearing, and things of that nature, it appears that there is some form of a pivot. So what I have to say to your initial question is that they are not where they are supposed to be with their internal targets in reference to Game Pass subscriptions. Thus, there is now an extreme pivot. Now we're seeing the third party, and a lot of these, big corp, they want that ROI. They're seeing, hey, we just spent this. We're looking at where our trajectory was, what we were supposed to be, and I'm just throwing up a theoretical number. Let's just say, they thought at this time they were going to be at 50, million
Well, they
subs.
kind of did say what they were looking for year over year, and then
Right.
like a total number, right?
Mhm.
I don't. You would know better than me, but there was a number.
Yeah, I don't remember it off top because it's so much of that documentation they have to see
Yeah,
is so much to sift through. But they clearly, to me, have not reached their targets. This is a pivot, and the question now is this is uncharted territory because me and you both know we OGs in the game. Generally, when you go third party, you generally stop making hardware and you go everywhere else, and,
yeah.
you
Sega.
transition. Exactly, I didn't want to say because that's my beloved Sega.
Mhm.
As a
Likewise.
kid, it hurt me to see
Mhm.
Very
Sonic
much.
over there frolicking with Mario at the time. Young,
Mhm.
immature
Mhm.
cog, didn't understand the business. Why are you not making consoles anymore?
Mhm.
So to me, what's different now is that they are claiming they are still going to make hardware and that they are still going to support the service. Another thing, Jason, to your initial question, I thought they would get away from day and date. I thought it would be more of an extreme pivot. So I think we're in an inflection point, a transition period for them. We have to monitor. We have to see how this thing is going to go. But right now, I can't say conclusively. it was a mistake because let's just say this pivot helps them as far as sustainability. That's the way I need to find out. The data is going to tell me a lot in the next couple of this year and the next couple of months.
As a follow up just to that, and then I'll pass it over to Eric. This is theoretically entirely. Do you think if Xbox would have stayed the course with the traditional business model head to head with PlayStation, rather than throwing their entire, Game Pass is everything. We want subscribers. Everything's on Game Pass. Because as we both know, it's destroyed software sales. You can tell me all day long that software sales don't matter. They do matter. It just does. But if they would have stayed the course, release games, Game Pass is an ancillary service. We're still selling games. Do you think they could have? Because we've seen it in the past with Nintendo and with the N64 and the GameCube, where they were behind. They stuck the course. Yes, they gimmick seems like such a negative slant. It's not negative, but they changed the game, so to speak. Got back in the ring, killing it. PlayStation 3, I suppose a downturn. Yes, they outsold the 360 in under a year. They were on the market a year less. But perception-wise, in the biggest market, PS3 lost that generation. They got back in the game, and they started in the PS3 generation. They just released 100 exclusives. Great games. Maybe they didn't sell a lot, but it sort of changed the slant. Then they adopt the indies, and off to the races they go. Do you think Xbox could have done that?
That's a great question. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. No. And the reason why I say no is that PlayStation is at the point where I call it that brand recognition. Like I'm an Android guy, right? I go to some people's houses and they're like, "Oh, this is an Apple house. We don't have your charge for your phone." Like because the brand
I'd be
is
one of them. Like I don't have.
There you go. There you go.
It's USB-C. You should
Not
have
because-
that for something. Good
And I
Lord.
know what you're
You
getting
have
at.
to have it, right? But before you had to deal with Jason and his lightning cable, right?
Yeah,
And we were out of being charged in his house. So my thing is the problem with the Xbox is that the Xbox One generation did so much cataclysmic damage because that was the digital library age. Once you get entrenched in that ecosystem, I would have this conversation with Colin all the time. I'm like, okay, what would it take for you to come over? And he's like, Cog, I got my trophies. I got my library. He said the only thing that, like, if you told me we came up, the only middle ground we found was, I said, if we came up with this thing called like smart entitlements, where every third-party game that you played on PlayStation, if you happen to play on Xbox, the achievement equivalent to your trophies would be there. People are embedded in their ecosystems, and that's the problem. So they lost that generation. They had horrible messaging. They didn't have apologies, I next to the firehouse. They didn't have the what you
As long
call
as they're not coming for you, we're good.
Definitely. So they didn't have the studios. They had about 3 to 5 studios. So they didn't even own the IPs that they had. The Rise of the Romes, the Quantum Breaks, the Sunset Overdrives. There's no ownership. The rights retained with them. So they were in course correction mode the entire generation. Meanwhile, your opposition is putting out quality games, consistent. Nintendo reinvents itself to this great dockable system that's portable, that you could buy multiple in one household, and now you're behind. So I ultimately think even if they would have made solid games, it still wouldn't have been enough for a whole generation to be that inept and playing catch up. So that's just where I'm at with it.
Well, and also they just canceled so many games. Like there were so many Xbox, like even as they were gathering IP or acquiring other companies, they were canceling games, and they just still haven't put out. I mean, now finally Xbox has made some truly massive purchases, starting with like Minecraft, but then also Bethesda, ZeniMax, and now Activision. But it feels like even before that, they were pursuing IP and then canceling a lot of promising projects. And now, obviously, I don't have any inside information on why those were canceled, but it's like it was like, in a way, they were their own worst enemy in any attempt to actually compete with Sony or Nintendo on the exclusives. And then on top of that, also, if you have a PC, you can pretty much play any Xbox game you want now. So there's just a lot of things working against Xbox, even outside of the Game Pass equation, which
Mhm.
is a whole nother, when you get into that subscription based, that's a whole nother calculus in terms of the business and what it's doing to the business and what it means for the future of the business. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you make fantastic points. It's again, it's easy to pin on one single thing. And trust me, I would love to subscribe to the idea that if they just made great games at that time, that would definitely have nullified the equation. It's just that it's a combination of things. And again, now that put it this way, to me, when I look at the series X and S console, there's a lot of course correction. And as far as value from a consumer perspective, I feel it's amazing, right?
Oh yeah.
If you have
That's
that kind of
undeniable. Yeah.
value, right? And the console is still not selling.
Yeah.
And you still have I think it was 2021, they were Metacritic Publisher of the Year. They had what is it, Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, Psychonauts 2, I believe Age of Empires, what you call it, Flight Simulator, highly rated games, really good
Mm-hmm.
games. But again, still not able to push past. And people say, hey, you know what? I'll wait. I have my places. I'm fine in this ecosystem. And I think that is also the part of it. So this is where the reinventing of themselves come, where it's like, okay, no matter what we do, there are still people in these other ecosystems that are not coming over, right? So I think that's where we are now, which is like, okay, let's experiment. Let's give them a hi-fi rush. Let's give them a Pentiment, critically acclaimed games. See now that builds awareness and maybe the thought process. Not saying it's going to work, but the thought process, okay, now people know what that is. If we come out with part two, the hope is, okay, now you're familiar with it. You may, like almost like the Final Fantasy VII FOMO in a sense, like, okay, you can only get rebirth here. That's what I think that's part of the hope. And also if they could get revenue on these other platforms. Uncharted territory. We have to see how this works out for them.
What's crazy to
Well,
me is how great All Access is as a financing option for getting an Xbox. So like I have all the shit. I have everything. I have the consoles. I think I've got like 4 Switches we never fucking play, right? But and I've got an Xbox Series S. I've got an Xbox Series X. I've got it all. But when I tell my friends like who aren't really interested in the big Sony like Last of Us, they don't really care. They want to play Call of Duty. I say All Access, man. This is a great deal. You get Game Pass. You get 0% interest. This is such a good deal. How is this not boosting sales for Microsoft? Like it's a crazy good deal. And like so like I play Call of Duty all the time. That's like my main game now. I play with a group of friends and we are all playing either on PC or Xbox, every single one of us. Partly because I orchestrated that because I want to use Xbox Game Chat
right.
because I hate in-game chat and you can't do
Same.
that, So anyways, and I tell all my friends that are looking to buy a console, I say, if you want to play, Uncharted, if you want to play Demon Souls, get a PlayStation. If you just want to play multiplayer games, All Access, man, it's a great way to get into a console that's $500 for way cheaper. And yet, at the same time, they're still not selling consoles.
Yeah.
And I hear people, being told they just want to play Call of Duty, but they're being convinced into buying a PlayStation 5.
Mm.
And it's just the brand. The
Yeah.
brand is so much
Yeah.
stronger at this point.
Let
So
me
much
jump in for a
stronger.
sec.
Yeah, good.
So,
A
yeah.
personal opinion of mine, and one that I'm a proponent of, is that I don't think video games, and maybe people probably might get mad at me for saying this.
I'm mad at you already.
I don't think people that play video games get in it for the value. And when I say that, I'm talking from a monetary standpoint. It seems well and good to say, and everything you guys said is undeniable. Xbox is like offering the best bang for the buck. You are not getting more for your dollar on any platform than what Xbox is giving you. Yet it doesn't matter. But to me, I didn't get in this. Like you, Cog, Eric,
Mhm.
you come from a time when we were playing $99 for games, $89 for games. It didn't fucking matter. We were going to get them. This is a premium hobby. It's not, now it's different things to other people. I understand that. But when we get to the higher levels, people want the best and they're willing to pay for it. And we see this not in video games, across every medium, whether it's clothes, whether it's anything, dude. Like cars, like anything, shoes, like Jordans. It doesn't matter.
Good
People aren't
point.
looking for value. They're looking for the best. That's what
Hence
they're looking
Apple.
for.
Hence
And they're
Apple.
Apple
Yeah,
has made their
exactly
whole
like,
brand
bro,
on
brand
I have an
innovation
recognition.
now.
iPhone 15 Pro Max. I got it. I've
Oh,
had every
get it off the
iPhone.
screen.
I've had
Boo.
I've had
Boo.
Got that
and
Galaxy
the thing
22
is,
here, though. We got that Galaxy. I'm just joking.
the thing
Pixel
is, Eric,
7.
you're probably right. Like, I guarantee you're right. But I just don't really care because I'm in that system and I
Yeah,
just buy
no.
them.
Yeah, that's it.
But
Getting in the
I'm
system.
also
Really it.
uneducated about phones entirely. Like, I do not follow phones in any capacity, and that I'm ignorant about them. Maybe that's why I stay in the.
But I think what
Yeah.
Cog was saying earlier about being locked into that ecosystem and what you're saying now, like that
Well,
really
I know I
matters for
was
a lot of
about,
people.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
like achievements or whatever. I've actually never given a shit about any achievement ever in any game, other than like beating the game. To me, that is the one achievement that matters. But a lot of people really do care, and I am very locked into the Google ecosystem, and people are very locked into the Apple ecosystem, and people are very locked into their achievements. Honestly, I think one of the best things that's happened in the game industry in years is crossplay and cross
Yes.
progression
Oh,
and
it's wonderful.
getting rid of this constant obsession with being totally locked in to. And that's another great thing about Xbox. Honestly, if you buy a copy, you can also play it on PC. That's wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had conversations with Microsoft about how it's kind of a pain in the ass that's tied to the Microsoft Store rather
Right.
than like letting me have that on Steam. You know, which I understand from a business perspective. I understand that, but being locked down is a very, very big part of how these businesses make money. And I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, you basically
That's
go
fine.
ahead.
No,
Jason was
I'll
responding.
just finish what I
Yeah.
was saying. And
Yeah,
on
I
top of
interrupt. Yeah, sorry.
the trophy, no, that's fine. It's
I do that.
like it's a conversational podcast here. But on top of the trophies and achievements, there's also the digital library. I've heard the spiel
Mhm.
from Phil, and I in somewhat agree, but I also will push back that I know things have changed. I know it's a new market, but you can call
Mhm.
me old fashioned all you want. I do think the games win out in the end.
Mhm.
And to again push a hypothetical and my personal take on it,
Mhm.
I believe while everything Cog said was resonant and completely accurate, the X1 was a colossal disaster for them in every capacity. But Xbox never righted the ship in the ways that they needed to. The management remained a disaster from X1 under Phil's tutelage. It never fixed. Matt Booty, these guys did not fix it. Games continue to be canceled, whether it's the one that they were doing with Platinum,
Scalebound.
Scalebound.
Scalebound,
Mhm.
and
I'm
it
very
kept
sad about that.
happening. And I understand they were the publisher of the year of 2021, but
Mhm.
it and you were saying it didn't matter, but Halo Infinite didn't hit the way they wanted it to hit.
That's a
Like
fact.
if Halo Infinite would have, let's say, if Halo Infinite was a Helldivers 2 level success, you know what I mean? Like in Helldivers 2 isn't what Halo Infinite, but if Halo Infinite was the game that it needed to be at launch, that game didn't need another year in the oven. It just did
Mhm.
to
Absolutely.
make that impact. And the thing is, everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted to be excited about, but when it came, it was kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
And it's like I think a lot of people made excuses for what it was, and then it got to the point it needed to be, and people had already kind of moved on. I feel like if they would have hit with those bangers
Mhm.
right at the advent of the generation and
I
been
agree.
like, "We're here, we're back, we're Xbox, and we're
Mhm.
we're ready to fucking fight." Instead, it just like it took them forever to get an exclusive that mattered
Mm.
right out of the gate. And by then, their window was gone. They needed to be the Sega Dreamcast,
I
where
agree.
all the games were out. Yes, it didn't matter for the Dreamcast, but it's like they came out in the first two rounds and hit Mike Tyson with every fucking shot they had. And it didn't matter. They lost, and they were out of business forever, but they gave it everything they had.
Mhm.
Xbox, if they were a lesser company with less money, they'd be done.
Mhm.
Just because of what they put forward, they'd be done. They pivoted to Game Pass, in my opinion, put all their eggs in that basket too quickly. And I understand the long-term position. I know what they wanted to do. I called it a long time ago. Not like I'm some savant or anything, but I've been enough like business. meetings and talking to enough of these people. They want to corner the market. They want to condition the fan base to seeing subscriptions as really the only way to do it. And once they cornered that market, developers really wouldn't have had anywhere to go. They could have walked back those expenses, and developers would have paid those the money or felt like they needed to be there on Game Pass. But that probably would, I think to them, they were like, this is 5-7 years. And they're quickly realizing that it's not a 5-7 year plan. It's probably a 10 to 15, 12-year plan. And I don't know if they can afford to stay the course like that. They can literally afford it, but in terms of mind share, I don't think they can afford it.
No, I mean, you make good points. I mean, the part where I definitely agree with you, I feel the problem. I love the Mike Tyson analogy, coming out the gate, knock out the champ as soon as you get in there, right? I love that. I feel that I'm with you at the launch of the Series X. I felt it was a golden opportunity missed that they didn't have compelling software, nor Halo Infinite. Remember, that was on the back of the box.
Yeah.
And it wasn't ready for launch.
You had to push
right?
back.
Right. So you have the problem with the series generation. What I see, it's uneven. The launch of the console, no compelling software. Then you have a good year where you publish it a year, you have some solid titles. Then you have 2022 where you have no Starfield, no Redfall that was supposed to launch that year, and maybe 2 kind of AA indie style games to kind of hold you for the majority of the year. And then Sony also puts out quality titles. Last year, I felt was a solid year for them. Obviously, they had Starfield, Hi-Fi Rush, Forza, and then obviously Redfall wasn't great, but overall encompassing, I thought they had a solid year. But I get your point, and I feel like, and this is just brutally honest, and as a person who likes the PlayStation platform also, I don't feel they've been their greatest either. I felt the champ was vulnerable. Like this was the time to get him.
I agree.
Well, they weren't only vulnerable, but like from a PR perspective, like Sony went from being like the cool, like gamer positive company to being like one of the most closed off, like kind of like hard, like both from a journalistic and a consumer perspective. They went from being like cool, like we support indies, we are like the gamers, and then we are like too good for all of you. Like
we're
Sony really,
we're greatness. We're VIP. It's an air about it. Then you saw even with the policies and the don't say the overcharging, but the nickel and diming for things that we were like, okay, we really gonna have to pay for this, or we're gonna pay for this upgrade. Whereas
I got blacklisted by Sony for no reason, and just straight up their PR just did not return my emails.
Well, their PR
ever again. Whereas like Xbox has been really. Actually, like their messaging has been much, much more like consumer friendly and positive. The problem is that what they're doing is still canceling games, laying off employees, not putting out what they need to. You mentioned Starfield, Redfall. Starfield, for me personally, I don't know. It was just kind of like,
Again, there's another game like Halo Infinite. It needed to be here. It needed to be like mega. And it was, maybe some people loved it, and I'm not even speaking to myself. Okay? I'm just saying.
Overall, that's personal preference. I know.
It wasn't a bad game.
Tassie loved it.
It wasn't a bad game. It just wasn't what it needed to be.
Yeah.
It just wasn't that like.
Well, it didn't. I don't think it excited people as much. There was a lot of hype for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And when it released, I don't think it really captured as much organic excitement and hype in the gaming community as something like look at freaking Pal World or something like look what's going on there, like and that's of course that's lightning in a bottle. How do you do that? You can't plan that out. But
we can't deny the commercial success of Starfield. I got to defend
Starfield is commercially successful. Absolutely.
So I understand from a review standpoint, it didn't excite the world. But we cannot say that it did not move the needle from PC, console, and then actually from a sales perspective, it did well.
No, it did very well. It did. And yet they still haven't released a new freaking Elder Scrolls game. No, but but then there's and Starfield and Redfall are both ZeniMax, right? Because we got Arcane doing that, and like that was more of a disappointment to me because I love Dishonored, and I love Dishonored so much. It's just one of my favorite games ever, and I started that game up, and I was just like, wow, this is genuinely bad, right? Like,
Woo!
I'm not just an asshole, right? This is
Awful.
really bad. And
Yeah.
I was so surprised by that one. Whereas Starfield was exactly what I expected it would be. Because I'm not a huge, like, I think Elder Scrolls it's great as like this big, you want to just like really get into a big RPG and just like go for it. That's what Starfield is, right? Same thing in space.
Mhm.
I don't expect a lot from the mechanics. I expect a lot of glitches and bugs. But what I expected from Arcane was something tight and well made, and it just wasn't that.
Just wasn't there
Yeah.
for you. I
And
got you.
I just feel like, and so often with Xbox, like either they're putting out really niche things that are great that nobody knows about,
Mhm.
or they're putting out these bigger products that are disappointing.
Mm.
And then there's Forza Horizon, which
I
is
was just
great
about to say,
fun.
what
It's
about
fucking
Forza
great.
Horizon?
Everybody loves Forza Horizon, and that's great. So there's everything else, and then there's Forza Horizon. So
Good,
I
Jason.
love.
Good jump in.
Like I say, yeah. Get back to your original. They were vulnerable. They adopted that old Ken Kutaragi. You'll get a second job to buy a PS3 and you'll like it, and it doesn't fucking matter. You'll buy our shit. It just that was the attitude. It didn't really make a lot of sense because the PS4 won them so much. Their personalities won
The
them so
Goodwill,
much,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
their CEO situation really threw them for a loop. I don't think enough attention has been paid of the dismissal of Sean Layden and the
Mhm.
Jim Ryan. Now, and I'll tell you, like Sean Layden, like from a couple years back, before he became known for liking tweets that really had to do with the industry and
Yeah.
and the cost associated with it. He did a couple of mine, and I tried to talk to him. Obviously, like we're a podcast that's barely had any episodes, but I was like, listen, I would love to talk to you
He's a great
about
guy.
this because
Yeah.
I've been chanting his mantra on a smaller scale. Now, it'd just be a wonderful conversation to have and have that nuance in terms of a mindset of the industry. But I actually don't think Sean Layden did himself any favors because under him is when you saw the pushback of Shuhei Yoshida.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, they were these big personalities in the press conferences and things, and then under Sean, you didn't see them as much. And then Shuhei kind of got demoted.
Yeah.
It was a quiet demotion.
Quiet. Yeah.
I don't really know what happened there, and there was a couple other things like that. And then obviously a
That
difference
was
of
sad. I
mindset.
like Shu.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Shu. I mean, he
I
seems like
mean,
the nicest guy, but supposedly a
yeah,
pit bull in the boardroom. Like he takes
Mhm.
no shit. Like
good.
from the Raising Kratos documentary, you could hear a lot about what Shu's input was. And when they first showed him the game, he was like, "This sucks." He's like, "This isn't good." So Shu Pitbull, you wouldn't know it.
Yeah, for
Sometimes
sure.
you killer with a smile.
Yeah, don't let the muzzle smile fool you. He
But
gets it
then they
in.
moved
It's
on from
awesome.
Sean and
Yeah.
Jim Ryan came in. I remember seeing Jim Ryan like really. I think it was end of PS2, beginning of the PS3, and he headed up PlayStation Europe, and I was like, this is the most boring guy I've ever seen. He came out, he's talking about TV initiatives and
I
fucking
remember.
FIFA, and I'm like, why
Yeah.
is this guy on the
On the
stage?
stage. I remember that. Yeah.
Back then, like the IGN community was big, and I was big into that, so we would talk a lot on that. And anyway, but yeah, Redfall, big
Oof.
disappointment. I'm
Oof.
a massive Arcane guy. I
Mhm.
they've
What's
made
wait,
gameplay. Go ahead. Sorry,
okay? Sorry, real quick. Who was the guy that was in charge of Xbox One at first? Remind me his name.
Don Matrick.
Don
Okay,
Matrick.
he
Mhm.
is also one of the most boring, imbecilic people you've ever seen.
Don.
Okay,
Don.
sorry, Don almost killed Xbox.
And
So
talk
Woo.
about
Jim Ryan may have his problems, but Don,
Mhm.
oh,
yeah,
Jim didn't
yeah.
You don't
fail.
like
Jim
our online
succeeded.
policies? We have a console for you.
Yeah, like and talk about a guy that this is
It's
the
hard.
problem with
We don't
corporate
understand
America.
games at all.
Corporate America, these guys fail upwards. And this is part of the reason we see
Mm-hmm.
layoffs we do today,
Mhm.
because these people never suffer a fool. They can make all the bad decisions they
Good
want.
point.
They
Good
are
point.
leapfrogged and re-recruited and given tens of millions of dollars to kill another company, and it doesn't matter. Like
There are a bunch of evil bastards, but I'm just going to give a shout out to Bobby Kotick of Activision for fucking making a bunch of money and riding off into the sunset. Like
golden parachute.
he you know, he really just he did it right. He's laughing all the way to the
He
bank
staked it
right
right.
now. Like,
Okay,
I mean, he's an
can't say
evil
he did it
motherfucker,
right.
but he did it right.
Okay, listen, but the thing is, he succeeded. His track record as a businessman.
Well, sure, Call of Duty is like
approach. But I mean,
you
by
gotta
all
give it
accounts,
cred.
he
Like,
was telling
yeah,
people to jump out the fucking window. He didn't give a shit about it anyway. So he definitely didn't do it right. But in terms of business
I will
standpoint,
say that he did do some things right. Like they were part of what was that French company? V. It starts with a V.
Can't remember off the top.
Whatever. They were owned by some French company 10 years ago, and he got the money together to buy back the company.
Yeah.
And they bought back and became independent, and then sold to Microsoft a decade later for $67 billion. I mean, and that was a $5 billion buyout that led to a $67 billion payout.
Yeah.
That's a good business move right there. I mean, that's a huge business move right there.
Would you say
at least he
is a better businessman than Bobby Kotick, or no?
No, Bobby Kotick's a better businessman than almost anybody in the industry. I mean, Bobby Kotick, I think, is probably a terrible person, probably a terrible human being. I mean, most of these guys are, but man, he made some good business moves. So credit where it's due. Like, and I don't know if that's, I mean, we could talk all day about the purchase of Call of Duty, of Activision, Blizzard, King, right? That's a huge acquisition by Microsoft. And I think probably overall, if I'm just looking at it from a competitive industry perspective, probably not great. It worries me a lot. But
I know, Cog, you were very pro acquisition at that
I mean, I think it's a good move. I just think I worry about the future and what it means. I mean, I think that the relationship between Activision and PlayStation was not healthy. There was a lot of exclusive wheeling and dealing and all this, like you release this for a year, and I don't like that shit. But I worry, what does it mean for something like Activision and Call of Duty, one of the biggest franchises in video game history, to be owned by Microsoft? Now, will it help Microsoft? Almost certainly it will. Is it great for the industry? I don't know. And that's the same thing I would say about Game Pass. Does something like Game Pass, a subscription service, does that benefit the consumer right now? I think it does. I think it's huge value. No. Absolutely. Long term, what does it mean? And I'm not a prophet. I don't know.
That's fair.
But it's worrisome in a way. All the subscription shit worries me. You see it if you go to TV, you look at Netflix, Paramount Plus, Apple TV Plus, all these this diaspora of subscription streaming services, and now they're all starting to add in ads and different tiers, and it's starting to become the cable industry all over again. What does that mean for video games? Where is that going to go when it's all PlayStation Plus, tier this, tier that, to that, Xbox, all the different, it's worrisome. And at the same time, I scratch all my discs, man. I lose my fucking physical media. I like digital media. I like subscriptions.
We still going to Blockbuster? Anybody still
doing that? I know we're dinosaurs, but I miss it.
I think my Blockbuster is a Verizon store now. So, it's a trade-off. A lot of it's a trade-off. So, yeah, I don't know.
I wrote that piece last year for your site. Yes, I used to write a time, and I do when I have time and I get a couple cocktails. I'm like, I'm gonna write something, and I wrote this piece. I said, for Xbox, the Phil Spencer era is over, and I took a lot of heat for it. Now I was ready. I had the heat shields. I was double wielded. It didn't matter to me because I believed it, and I was ready to cite everything. And like I don't know if Phil's going to go. But I mean, to me, it kind of seems inevitable. It almost seems, even if he holds on, it's token because his plan is out of his hands.
Interesting.
Okay,
I don't know
well,
what to
all right.
say.
Let's
But I
hear.
know, and
I
I
want to know
know
what you mean
everyone.
by interesting. Let's
No,
expand on
I would
interesting. I
let him
want.
answer.
Just let
Just
me
so
let me finish.
he feels very strongly about this. I know.
Let
So
me let me
I want to
finish
let him
my
get it out,
point.
and then I'll listen. I
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna pass it to Tom because I took some heat on the site. I was a bit of a
Yes.
new guy, and a lot of
Mhm.
people are on me now. A lot of people were like, you know what? I get it, and
Yeah.
that story did some great numbers. I
Oh,
noticed for
absolutely.
the
He killed it
site,
for us.
and a
He
lot of
killed it.
people were pissed. I kind of just ignored everything, but
Yeah, they were mad at me. I'm like, that's this man's opinion. As long as he defends his points, I don't
but the
care
thing
what he
is,
says.
it's like in a year, it's like it bore out a lot of the things that I said. It really did,
Mhm.
and I I know everyone likes Phil, and that was my
Mhm.
point. But my point was this: when Don Matrick made all those decisions, Phil was right there. Phil was right there beside
In
him.
what capacity?
Exactly. Now you can
Okay,
say
let's
that,
be
but I
fair.
mean,
Bringing him coffee.
he
Okay.
had to have had some sort of input as like the second. Okay, you even if he claimed ignorance,
Okay.
even if he claimed ignorance and took over, he has had a long runway to right the ship. He
Okay.
kind of hasn't, and that was my point. Everyone likes Phil. Phil's nice. He smiles. He wears cool T-shirts. He interacts with the community. But what the fuck has he done?
Numbers,
Like he
results.
hasn't righted the ship in terms of games, and
Mm.
the games matter. I think they do to me.
Mhm.
Anyway,
No,
Cog,
I get you.
Usain
Listen.
Bolt. Actually, Usain Bolt runs the anchor, so I'm a Safa Powell. Hand in that.
No, I get you. Listen, it is to be determined, right? We still have to see the way this generation plays out, and this pivot they're about to do is going to play out. But I think the reason why you got a lot of pushback is because the reality is, under the Don Matrick era, this brand was dead. They did not care about gaming. There are names in that boardroom like Terry Myerson.
TV,
Yeah,
football, cable. I know.
these are corporate guys who don't understand gaming, who once they can't get a profit, why are we in this? Let's kill
Mm-hmm.
this, Satya. What are we doing? That was the talk during the Xbox One era. So when Phil's promotion happened and Don leaves and goes to Ouya, whatever Don does, right? Then it becomes okay, this is why we need to focus on it. So Game Pass was the Trojan horse to get corporate executive to say, oh, okay, we could get this long-term money because of this service. Okay, let's give you some money to invest here. Okay, let's now see what this Minecraft thing does. Oh, wow. This is generating money hand over fist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, it starts with these things, right? And the Game Pass is the way to get it going. Now we get to where we are now. Here's the thing. To your point, right? From a games perspective, they've had good games. They've had some
Mm-hmm.
solid games.
Mm-hmm.
But in fairness to you, I wouldn't say like they've had those 90 meta, oh my God, you must get an Xbox style game. I will give you that. But I think the reason why the base is so in favor of, yes, besides he's a nice guy, wears cool t-shirts, all that
Very
other
cool
stuff.
T-shirts. Yeah.
Very cool t-shirts. Very
Yeah.
cool t-shirts.
Mm.
The key to me, it's like all of us like sports. And if you're a fan of a bad franchise, a bad team, one of the worst things is making either not investing, like buying overpriced free agents on the decline, right? Or, you sit there and say, we're making bad draft picks. The thing that I look at and a lot of the community look at is I call it the draft class of 2018. When they said, okay, you know what? We don't have ownership. We don't have studios. Let's go get Playground. Let's go get Compulsion. Let's go get Ninja Theory. Now it's like, okay, Obsidian. Okay, NXL. I know those guys. Okay. So
Yeah.
it becomes a situation where now you're like, okay, you see the investment, right? Game development takes time. So now,
This is what I've been saying.
How
I have been
long?
getting so much flack
Mhm.
because I keep saying that these investments will pay off. They will take time, but they will come back.
But hold on, Eric.
And
Okay,
How
and
let's go.
long? Year over year. How long
oh, it
have you been
takes
talking?
years to build
Yeah,
Takes
these
but
years.
games, and
how
it
long
takes
have you been
years. And see,
talking
here's the
about the
thing.
potential?
Here's the thing. I get mad at the cancellations, but here's the thing. They are coming in, they're looking at games that are, and they're making business decisions based on, are these games really going to pay off? We might have to cancel these, start fresh. This could take 5-6 years,
Mhm.
maybe more. But they have now a whole lineup of studios
Time.
and a bunch of games in the offing. They're not there yet, but there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff where they can finally catch up with PlayStation. Will it be enough? I don't know, but that's
Go
what
ahead,
that's why I keep saying, like,
he cooking. He got me on fire. You on
this.
fire.
I'm playing off of what I'm riffing off of you here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do your thing. Do your thing.
It does take time to make video games, and when you're buying a bunch of studios, then you're also having to incorporate that into your business, incorporate those organizations into your business. That's why sometimes why you see the layoffs, but also why you see the cancellations, and then ideally those seeds are planted, and down the road a few years, if you have the stomach for it, if you have the corporate backing for it, if you have the leadership for it, those games eventually come around, and then Xbox suddenly has games from Ninja Theory, Bethesda, Activision that are coming out that are really, 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 really compelling, like what we've been seeing from all the really, really great investments that Sony has made in all these studios that have been putting out, like Naughty Dog, et cetera, Insomniac, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just that things operate like, okay, what's the tenure of someone in charge of a business like Xbox versus the length of time to develop a bunch of games, right? How long does it take to establish formidable leadership in this versus how long does it take to produce these products? I mean, that's tough. That's tough to like look at the timelines of success versus disappointment. Because in a year and in 2 years, you might think this is disappointment, and a lot of people have said when I've talked up Xbox, people have said, "Oh, look, haha, they still haven't released Starfield yet. You are wrong." And I'm like, well, I mean, it takes time.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see if these investments pay off and these decisions pay off. So,
I'll just jump in real quick before I pass the cog.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
We've talked about this for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about the potential of Xbox's lineup for a long time. It seems like year after year after year, it's just wait till 21, just wait till 22, just wait till 23, just wait till 24. I'm sorry, and you said they've nailed everything. They have not nailed the leadership. They have not nailed the management. They couldn't manage their own studios before acquiring the other studios that they had. And that was my big worry. It was like, if they can get a hold of, and you talk about, it's like signing bad free agents. Did they do that? I know Sony probably did with Bungie. It looks like that right now. But it's like, if you can't, it's like, I'm trying to think of a really good sports analogy that's not too obscure. But I'll point to it like this. When the 76ers started signing a lot of guys in the early Joel Embiid era, they signed dude from the Clippers that wears a headband. He was averaging like 23 points. Give him like $200 million.
Yeah.
Okay? Bad free agent signing. Complete waste, because when he doesn't have the ball in his hand, he's not going to put up those numbers. They're paper numbers. Not saying Activision is paper numbers. Okay? Not saying ZeniMax is paper numbers. It's just, if you're not utilizing them properly, it's just wasted space on the bench. Okay? What have we seen since they've acquired these guys? We've seen disappointment after disappointment. Now, COD's going to produce. It doesn't matter, okay? But Arcane hasn't produced. How much influence did they have? And if they didn't, if it was a bad game on arrival, DOA, why couldn't Microsoft right the shift on that? They saw what Redfall was. Why couldn't they take those few years that they had and pivot it to something else that could have worked? I don't know.
They hope that studio hoped it got canceled too. That's funny you said that. Yeah.
I just feel like Xbox has had a big time management problem.
Well, I think the timing
isn't going to do that, isn't going to fix that problem. And I keep hearing about the potential, and I agree with you. And that's why I said if they would have stayed the course, I think they might have bore out a better future. I'm almost done. I swear.
I'll let you rock.
A better future for them rather than throw all their eggs into Game Pass. But my whole thing of what I'm talking about doesn't work unless you can wrangle those games, manage them, and harness that energy. Like, on paper, you look at those studios, you're like, wow, that should just be banger after banger. 5 exclusives a year minimum that are really good to great. If we can get 2 out of the 5 that are just like home runs and 3 like cushion insulation, we're great. But it hasn't happened. Cog.
Now this is where I got to push back. You out of pocket now. Now here's the thing. I love you, but here's the thing. We got to look at it objectively from just as last year. Let's just use last year. What came out? Hi-Fi Rush. Are we not going to say that's a critically
Great game.
acclaimed quality game, right?
Great game.
Then we had
Out of the blue
Minecraft.
too.
Yeah, Minecraft. We had Redfall. We know what Redfall is. I'm not going to dispute you on that one.
You're allowed a dud.
Right. You have Forza Motorsport, still a solid game in the racing genre, and then you had Starfield and Age of Empires for the year. So to me, I look at the totality of the year. Those are quality games. You could put an 80 percentile of quality games that came out. Now I look at what's coming out this year, right? We've got Hellblade, Indiana Jones, right? Avowed. We still have at least 3 or 4 more. I believe the Towerborn is one of them, and there's 2 other towers. They got 10 games coming out this year. So to me, I look at the cadence that I know that they're supposed to be capable of when you have all of these studios. It's finally starting to hit. Now, to your point, maybe for your taste, and I'll give you this, they have yet, unless Hellblade does that, maybe, right? Or Indiana Jones does this, maybe.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah,
it's not about taste, and nothing you just said is incorrect. It's more about, it's like, okay, it's starting now, but I can't give you the benefit of the doubt for something that has taken so long to get here. Like, show it to me for 2-3 years.
I feel
and
that.
I'm in 100%. But its actions speak louder. That was
but
more.
This is about to be year 2 now. This is about to be year 2. We got to give 2023.
Yes,
they had
another thing just to think about in this transition as Microsoft purchases these studios is something like Deathloop. Think about that. That was a PlayStation exclusive that came out when Microsoft purchased Bethesda. So they owned Bethesda, but Deathloop was for another year, and still only on PlayStation. So that's kind of how we're in this weird transition era of Microsoft acquiring a lot of studios where it's hard to make a judgment call because we're still seeing again, and even with Call of Duty, what's going to happen with Call of Duty? That's the big one in 2024.
I mean, that was my final point. And I hated to interrupt you because I just wanted to get that part off.
Go for it. Yeah.
My thing was, again, we're not even seeing the fruits of the biggest free agent that they have literally infused into their ecosystem. This is all I want to see. I want to know, because Eric, you made a good point earlier. You got the homies. All y'all do is y'all get Call of Duty, y'all fire it up. I know guys like you. That's all they do. It's either that, GTA, or 2K, or a sports game. That's it. I want to know what happens when Call of Duty is day and day in Game Pass, and it's on the box and it's on the cover and say, hey, you walk out with this right now. One of them
for free.
Exactly. One of the more premier games in the casual market. What does that do to subscribers? I'm just curious.
Call of Duty is crazy.
We get to see that.
With the case, with the whole, with Sony trying to stop the acquisition of Activision, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but people who play Call of Duty, they play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a ton of money. It is so much money as a portion of the pie of the gaming industry. It is huge. And so what does that look like for the future of Xbox versus PlayStation? I mean, even if it remains a cross-platform game, which I'm sure it will, just taking the exclusive benefits away from PlayStation and giving them to Xbox and giving Xbox Game Pass the boost of Call of Duty, I mean, that cannot be underestimated. It is a titan. It is so much bigger than almost any other game. And you can say GTA, sure. When was the last time a GTA was released? Let's see, 2013.
It's been a minute.
It's 11 years ago. When was the last time a Call of Duty was released? Every fucking year. Every year, maybe more than once a year. I mean, one of the best-selling items on Steam every few months is the Black Cell Battle Pass for Warzone. Every few months. Call of Duty is it cannot be overstated how massive it is. And now also Warzone Mobile is about to release on March 21st. That's releasing. I mean, this is and then it's not just Activision too. It's King they purchased. So all that mobile stuff. This is a very, very big pivotal moment, and it is just beginning. It's not. I agree that it's been several years of this, and this has been part of my great, like, a lot of people get on my case on social media and stuff when I've been saying that Xbox is coming around. People have been very mad at me for saying that because they constantly are on my case. But it's like, it takes years to change the course of something like this business. And now we're seeing a really pivotal moment. And the next few years, whether Xbox can break into Japan, Europe, that's going to be huge. Like, because really, like, PlayStation just has a global dominance that Xbox does not have.
It's a fact.
Whereas, and then Nintendo has a whole nother, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, really.
Yeah.
But what will this stuff do? And then how does Xbox Game Pass fit into it are two really big questions that we really, really, I mean, we just can't answer. We can just predict. I think that the Activision purchase, I mean, just based on the evidence of how much courtroom battle went into preventing it from happening, I think it's a really, really big deal. It's a really big deal.
Cog, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree.
Again,
I think
they're coming for you.
I know they coming for me, man. They coming. They heard all this Xbox talk. They're like, we got to shut him down right now. Yeah,
Sony just swatting people and shit.
It's an inflection point. We're in an inflection point. We're in, the games industry right now. We're learning two things. One, from the subscription standpoint, I feel Microsoft maybe internally not where they want to be, right? Then I'm looking at Sony from where they are as far as how much these games are costing and the AAA market, how sustainable it is, and the pivots they're going to have to make, right? So both of them are to me, are course correcting right now. That's what I see right now. So you got that, and then you've got the games as far as what we know, and Sony's having an amazing first half of the year. Let's just be clear. You know what I'm saying? Final Fantasy's out here. You know what I mean? What you call it? Helldivers is killing their first attempt, but first really dominant live service multiplayer style game, which is really, really cool to see. So you got that. And then the second half of the year, which I feel, obviously they don't have, they made an announcement that they're not making any major first party releases, Sony, for the remainder of the year. But I'm looking at, again, that Xbox year that we talked about. So I'm really high on Machine Games and Indiana Jones. I feel like Machine Games has not missed. That game looks phenomenal. I mean, it stole the thunder from all the rest of the games. I was very surprised. I didn't think it was going to come out this year, which is also a surprise. So, yeah, I think we just got to wait and see. There's a lot of data points that I'm dying to know how it happens. But to Eric's point, yes, that's what I've been preaching. I've been literally saying, when Diablo is pumped into a Game Pass service, what happens? When, the Blizzard integration happens, what happens? And the key, again, Call of Duty. I need to know what that means. Does that now get little Jimmy and the homies to say, yo, I can get that right now? And
with an all access, if I don't have an Xbox, but I can pay $25 a month, interest free, to get an Xbox, plus I get Call of Duty for free right now, that is a compelling, for casual gaming. That's a huge deal. Sorry, not to interrupt, but I mean, that is
the key to me. And this is where I got to defer to Jason, though, where I still feel they're terrible, is they got to market. Their marketing is not.
Their marketing sucks.
Their messaging.
Their messaging, absolutely. I'm with you there. Like, I feel that the problem is, like, everybody should know this thing should be plastered. Game Pass should be plastered places, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that revenue and pocket is allocated towards when this acquisition is complete, and they can say, okay, it is day one, because people need to know, the casual market needs to know that this is the place where you can get that. And I'm very curious, because at least in other markets, I see it, and especially in Japan, where physical is still important, and you see it at the storefronts, the physical with Nintendo and Sony there, and Xbox has pretty much no presence.
Well, I don't. Are you good, Cog? You good?
I'm good.
I'll finish my point, and then I'll
be right back.
We'll tie up the Xbox topic with one last question. But I mean, as much as it hurts my heart to say it, Japan overall really doesn't matter. It matters more in terms of, like, I want it to happen, for old time's sake. But, like, even PlayStation is losing. It's ephemeral. It's not really there anymore.
Good point.
Like, they cling on to these tens of thousands of things. It's not like this big deal anymore, and it's a shame, because when we grew up, everything was
Yeah,
Japan. It just was. And my
that was our
favorite games,
sensibility.
I have to
Yeah.
say, still are Japanese games.
Yes, me
But
too. Me too.
I agree with you. We're at it. Everything I've said is a preface to really what I agree with you guys in the end. It's like my only thing is how long can they play this game of foot on either side? I know they can float the boat forever if they wanted to, but it's like, are they willing to continue playing this game of
Mm,
getting their ass kicked on in a traditional sense? Now I hear all
right.
the time that this supposedly doesn't matter. That's not the business model that they play anymore. I'm sorry, it does matter. It may not matter as much as it
Mhm.
used to, and it's not solely measured in consoles sold and software sold, but it has to matter. I mean, consoles
Yeah,
mean another Game Pass subscriber too, right? So
absolutely.
it's
I
like,
agree.
how long do the heads of Microsoft wait
Mm,
until they pull the plug on terms of what they want to do with Xbox? But on the other foot, you're right. PlayStation's at the inflection point too. They're riding high, sure, but I mean, was it Hiroki Toki Literature Club? I
oh,
love
bro,
that name.
I
I
love that. Yeah, I love it, Dustin.
He's such a good name, honestly, but
It's so good.
he's come in and he's a money guy, and he's saying, you know
Oh, you
what,
see what he said?
this isn't where I need it to be, and our margins aren't where we be. We sold 25 million Spider-Man 2 copies, and we're not making any of the paper that we should. Our licensing costs are insane.
Whew.
And look, this is my son. He is not
Little one. Love
serious.
it. What's
You want to
going
come
on?
and listen for a
We
moment?
got the full experience. Let's
Which
go.
is
The
cool.
Rose experience.
Let's just talk to him.
Oh man, what's up?
But with ballooning AAA costs and things of that nature, like the Sean Layden dream is coming to fruition, and
Yes.
it's like, how long can we play this game and still produce the games we want? And I mean, that's a greater industry issue, sure, because I've always maintained, this goes back to my initial point in terms of value. We
Premium.
can't play the value game and get the games we want. It's just not going to happen. What are we doing? Are we paying and getting the quality that we measure for, or are we going to marginalize ourselves and not stop counting pores on Lara Croft's face and hairs blowing in the wind? Because these are the things that are going to have to
Why,
fall to the
wait,
wayside.
why would we stop doing that?
Exactly,
That's
because we
all I
don't want our
wanted.
games
That's
to
all I
cost
really want to do.
350, $400
I
million
actually
dollars.
have a Count Laura Croft Poor simulator in development right now.
So you're right. While Xbox is the first one to relent, I
Mhm,
think PlayStation is going to have to relent in a way that may
mhm.
not make them feel comfortable, because if they want to make the money that, like, PlayStation is the core of Sony's business, right?
Right, correct.
It's everything to them. It never used to be, but it has been for at least a decade and a half now. And if they're
Mhm,
going to if that's going to be their pillar, they're going to have to make a lot of money off of it. And they're not going to
mhm,
make a lot of money when the games cost $300 million, if not more, with the marketing.
mhm.
And that's what they're known for. And I listen to the analysts like Matt Piscatella and these guys, and like, the industry is huge. It makes more money than any other medium, entertainment medium, quote unquote, but it's not really growing. The growth is in the other places,
Correct.
which hurts my heart, because I would
It's
hate to
sobering.
see
Well,
gaming
you know
market.
what? But I think this is a sign. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more stuff like Pal World,
Mm,
more cheaper to
mhm,
produce,
mhm.
but very popular and profitable games. I think that what we're seeing right now with all the layoffs, which are horrible, of course,
Oh,
but what we're seeing is we're going to see a lot of this talent is not just going to disappear. We're going to see smaller studios come up. We're going to see more games that are more affordable to make. I don't think that gamers care about graphics as much as the as industry. I mean, what we've seen is that games have gotten very expensive to make because they are made for these much more. The consoles make much
Well, it's not only that.
more
I mean,
advanced
I'm with
games. They're
you.
more expensive to make. The graphics are beautiful. They're wonderful to look at. They're expensive to make. They're unsustainable. It's not sustainable to keep
yeah.
making $300 million games. But you can make a lot of money off games that are just fun. And I think more and more gamers are going to start to see that you don't need everything to look as good as The Last of Us Part Two.
Mhm.
You just need some games to
I
be
mean,
like like I keep saying Palworld, but like even like Helldivers, like you don't need everything to cost a fortune to be profitable. there's going to be an industry shift.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir with this stuff.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Well, God dang it! I wanted some disagreement in here.
Well, we are going to, but
we're not.
I love my visual like tour de forces. I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't need these games to look the way they do, but unfortunately, the discourse around these games, not only visually, but somehow, and the media is to blame on this. And this is another podcast that I love to. Maybe we have you on another time to talk about. Is how we talk about games critically and how we break them down just in the language of games. But it's like, for some reason, we've decided that bigger is always better in video games.
Yeah, that's true.
Open world is this apex achievement for every game. I can't wait till it's open world. When the fuck was that?
Right, like Starfield, we have 1,000 planets. Dude, I just want 3 good planets, man.
And gamers have latched on to this thing. It's like where 100 hours is the back of the box quote. Like, to me, I'm like, bigger is almost never, if ever, better in video games, other than like the Red Dead Redemption 2. And that is a once in a generation game. And most of these open world games cannot hope to match that. They're chasing scraps and they're bloating budgets on a whim on something that they'll never achieve.
It's not just it's not just size, it's how you use it. No, but it's true. It's true. I'm going to talk about Elden Ring for a second. One of my favorite games of all time. I love Dark Souls, and I think that From Software created a very, very big version of Dark Souls with Elden Ring, right? They created a big open world game. But what made it great was how they used it, how they used the open world to create a story and create a compelling adventure story within that game. And you don't necessarily just need, like, you could make a much bigger game than that. Wouldn't be better. It's how you use, the tools of game design to create a compelling gaming experience. So I love From Software has ruined games for me. I don't know if you guys play a lot of Dark Souls or whatever.
If you bring up Sekiro, we're gonna fight.
If we're gonna fight in Sekiro, I can't summon anyone to help me because there's no summoning in Sekiro, which makes it really, really hard. No, I love all those games, but I think what From Software does is they prove that you don't need the best graphics. You don't need the biggest open world. What you need is intelligent, clever, thoughtful game design that uses every aspect of video games to its advantage, which is both just how visual and interactive storytelling works, along with how challenge can enhance the experience of gaming in a way where you don't need it to be a longer game, but you need that challenge to guide players through that game in a way that is ultimately very satisfying, in a way that a lot of games, even games I like Far Cry or whatever, but like they're not hard. They don't really like
you're
unapologetically challenging.
You're talking about this. I could take this conversation in 15 different ways and we'd be on this for another hour. I love you for it. I'm going to wrap up this Xbox topic just by asking one last question, and I'll push the cog first. In 5 years, where do you see Xbox?
Oh, good question. 5 years.
It doesn't necessarily have to be 5, but like in that realm, where do you see it?
50 years. Let's do 50. Just kidding. Sorry.
Injected in my brain, man.
I think my hardcore sensibilities are struggling with what they're doing now because it's something that is completely foreign to me, right? But at the same time, I do see they're very forward facing. And I have to give them this. There's a lot of times, sometimes Xbox is a little too clairvoyant, and they see where things are going to go before we do in the industry. And I think they do see this future where two things. One, where there is going to be some form of the walled garden coming down on some level, right? So I think what they're doing is positioning themselves for that portion, one. Two, the integration with PC. We all talked about that console market circle, that bubble. It has not grown. It is the same. So in their eyes, let's get PC. If they're very aggressive with it day and date, right? Let's integrate mobile, and then also we'll be able to put some of our best games in other places. I do think it's the right strategy. The key is going to be the execution. That I can't predict. So if you gun in my head 5 years, they'll be on the next console. I'm a firm believer they're going to drop in probably 2026. And I actually agree with that, because to me their only successful generation was the 360, when they had the year to two to themselves. To me, it's suicide to keep trying to launch at the same time.
I agree, 100% agree with
that is brand suicide.
It's one half of suicide, also launching without compelling exclusives.
Oh yeah, and that too, right?
And those together,
yeah, you're done. So the way I look at it, that's an Elder Scrolls launch. That's a Perfect Dark. That's when Blade's ready. That's when. So again, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I do see it. It's just they have to execute it. So 5 years.
I'm with you 100% there. Yeah.
And last point, my prediction is that I do see, whether these court cases between the Epic Store and Apple, I do think we're getting to a ubiquitous future on some level. I do think that we're gonna see the walls come down, or at least with the third party and the live service and the fighting. It makes sense. It really does. Like to sit there and say, okay, I'm gonna wall this off and we could get all this revenue if Doom is everywhere, or Helldivers is everywhere. At least makes sense on live service and multiplayer. That's what I would say. And exclusives won't go away. That's my prediction. I just think that they'll still hold place for the ecosystem, but we won't see them as prevalent as what us as the hardcore are used to. So
I mean, think about okay, we're going to give you Call of Duty on Game Pass for free, but you still have to buy the Battle Pass. Right. Where are they making their money? They're making their money both places. So, but we're still going to sell it on PlayStation.
Right.
You got to buy it on PlayStation. You also have to buy the. There's so many different ways they could work this. And then, you've seen Xbox or Microsoft say that their competitors aren't necessarily Sony and Nintendo. Their competitors are Google, Amazon, So there's so many angles. 5 years, man. How do you ever predict 5 years in the landscape we have now? It's almost impossible. Could you predict what AI is doing right now? 5 years ago? What's that going to do to the game industry? It's just, there's so much. I'm mostly interested, is there going to be another good Fable game? Is that ever going to happen? Are we going to get a new Fable game that's good? Can we please get another good Fable game?
We're going to see.
It's not one of those games that it's it's coming, but when? I don't know.
Which version of it? What's it going to be?
2025?
I think it's going to be a competitive loot shooter.
Yeah. Me personally,
what'd you think? 5 years.
I agree. A lot of what Cog said makes sense. I do think they're going to have another hardware platform, but I don't think their heart's going to be in it.
One foot out the door.
Yeah, and I think they're going to continue this, and and it's a shame, because I think they have all the potentials really to grab it and run with it. If I was them personally,
what you doing?
I would just, this generation's done. I wouldn't even release any games. I would just
cut the cord.
Whole generation,
bro. This is already an L, and I'm gonna hold the biggest L probably.
Treat it like the OG Xbox,
but because I can hold it, I'm Microsoft. I can hold it, and there's meetings. If I'm Phil, if I'm the guys, I'm like, this is our last ditch plan. Give us this 5 years. And if this doesn't work, it's not going to work. Then we take it into your fully third-party embrace all platforms future. And I don't know if they're going to give them that time, because it seems like the conflicting, the Satya and the Xbox thing,
the messaging,
some of it's being ripped away from Xbox a bit. I don't know if it's fully been taken away, but it sort of has. But if I'm them, I'm just like, we punt this, and in 2 years, we come out with the best lineup of games we've ever had.
That's funny.
And I'm talking the COD strategy is in full effect. We've flirted with it this year and the next year, but by 2026, we have it. We know what we're doing. Arcane comes out. Machine Games comes out with a new Doom. We got everything going.
Ready to go.
And this is it. Because if we're going to win, it has to be like this. Yes. We can't limp out. It has to be everything.
Do they release all those games on PlayStation also, but they're on Xbox Game Pass? What do they do? How do they do this?
I was about to finish with that.
Yeah, okay.
Because, like I said, they're pulling the plan away, and it's like I'm worried if I'm them and I was a fan, and if I was running Xbox, I'm just saying, I don't know. It might be too late in terms of that. I don't know, because all that isn't going to matter. It might matter from a revenue standpoint. Like if their point is just to make the money, and Xbox is just meshing with everything, so be it. But if I'm talking about Xbox as it exists now, as its own entity, fighting everybody, and as your boy King David, instead of holding the line, they're flanking. You know what I mean? They're flanking.
The flank.
You know what I mean? They push on the right flank, and maybe they
flanking is important.
Flanking is important, though.
It's very important.
It's very important strategy.
It's really
and if they flank and it falls, the Vanguard can push through.
I see where you're going with this.
The Sega Vanguard, the new console from Sega, coming out in 2026.
That's what I would do. I don't know what they're going to do, so maybe I give the worst answer out of the three. So,
well, you know what's funny? To your point, that's what I hear is happening. Everything you just said is what I've been hearing internally when I hear speak behind the scenes, that they are punting most likely for 2026 and taking. Look, I had Peter Moore on, and one of the best things he said, he's like, bro, as a challenger brand, you have to go all out. And we all feel from the consensus that the 360 was their best generation, right? So that's the way to do it. I agree. That's the way to do it. You have to have the market to yourself. You have to have the compelling software. You give this as the all-in approach, and then by then, obviously, everything's integrated with Activision and all that. I did hear they're still not finishing. I'm hearing, I don't know if it's going to be Sega or someone. There's still going to be another acquisition. It's most likely going to be third party, though. You know what I'm saying? In the vein that the way Activision Blizzard is being handled, but that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that's the push. And the other thing that I'm hearing, again, we'll see how true this ends up becoming, is the multi-SKU approach, but different in the sense of, obviously we had the Series X, we had the Series S, but the problem was it had a little less memory. The developers, push back. Right. Yeah. So now we're hearing the SKU will be the same from a technological standpoint, but one will be dockable. That's the other thing I'm hearing, right? So
dockable just makes so much sense.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the ROG Ally and things of that nature.
Yeah, so I have a Steam Deck, yeah.
Right. So you have your traditional console that goes under the box, and then you have the equivalent that you may pay a little bit more, but it's dockable, and then that also can go and maybe appeal to those other markets. So,
dude, I wrote an article. Right, I wrote an article saying that Nintendo needed to combine its mobile and home consoles into one system 2 years before the Switch came out. And did Nintendo ever pay me for that? No, they did not. I mean, and here they go, just making bazillions off of it.
Over fist.
That was,
one time I interviewed Doug Bowser, and I just had the hardest time sitting there thinking, I'm talking to a guy named Bowser who works for Nintendo about the Nintendo Switch. God damn. I would like to interview Jack Black about that song also. But
listen, guys, that was a wonderful conversation.
That was great. That was great.
It carried on a little longer than I thought, but that's fine.
No, it was lovely. And you have a lot of knowledge about it, which is great.
No, that was awesome because I learned a lot.
I feel like a fucking casual right now, but I am kind of. Like I said,
let's just do the whole game. Like, what are you playing right now, Cog?
All right.
Like, so what's in the docket?
All right, so right now, just finished Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
I knew that, yeah.
Took about 100 damn hours of my life, but I loved every bit. It's goofy, it's silly, it's got its heartfelt moments. If you're a turn-based JRPG fan, you're in heaven. The combat is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And for people who follow the series, great, I don't want to spoil it too much, but an appreciation for the Kiryu character and the new protagonist, which is Ichiban. My only negative is they did try to, it's like almost 2 games in one. So it's Hawaii and it's Japan. It's a lot going on, but they somehow make it work towards the end. So I finished that. Huge Tekken guy.
Before you jump to Tekken, because I actually wrote it down. Were you a Yakuza guy before?
No, I'm actually.
Where did you jump in?
All right, so I jumped in on the latest when they switched to Like a Dragon to turn-based. Okay. That's when I jumped in because don't get me wrong, Yakuza as a Sega kid, I looked at it. It always felt like the spiritual successor to Shenmue to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I just felt the sensibility. I'm like, I should like this, but I missed out. So I spoke to the hardcore Yakuza guys. I'm like, look, should I start from the very beginning or should I start now? Because I kind of like this new direction they're going with this new one. He's like, you could totally start with the new one. He said, if you want to do your backlog, that's fine. And yeah, I've been doing that. I did that, and I did Like a Dragon Gaiden, which is the man who erased his name, which is the one between the newest one, which is Infinite Wealth. So those three gave me more than enough recap and reverence for what has gone on in the series in the past.
Good. And then Tekken, I respect it because I'm a big FGC guy. I always have been. I am not anymore.
Mhm.
And I'm ashamed about it because I've had to hang up the belt and my gloves because I hate losing. And unless I'm going to have the time to be good at something, I'm not even going to bother. Like, for me to limp in to Street Fighter or Tekken or, Guilty Gear and just, it would drive me insane. Like, it just
no. The key to those games is to button mash. Okay. It's to button mash like a crazy bastard and get destroyed by your 13-year-old son who has played it less than you. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to look, if Dark Souls has taught me anything, it is that losing is okay. And it's okay to be a loser at games like Tekken because I'm not good at any of those. Like, I've been playing since Street Fighter 2 and all those, and I've never been very good at them. And I still love the shit out of all of them.
Good as
Tekken's fun,
but like the ceiling, like anything, and we'll get to your health initiative later, but it is something you can improve at. You're never going to take center stage at Evo for the most part, but you can improve. Like,
yes,
fighting games have this trajectory of time versus results if you're willing to learn.
Good point.
Like, I feel like fighting games
kind of
really, but like League sometimes is like lane versus lane versus lane, and it's like you're not going to be able to put that time in on your own other than watching YouTube videos or something like that. Like,
League of Legends can go die in a fire. I hate that game.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm just talking
fighting
about
games are fun though.
Games like Overwatch. You're never going to get the experience of training with that. Like, the fighting game has this infinite ceiling. It is the perfect esport that for some reason remains. It's funny because the FGC has always said their own thing, and then when they start to get that money, like, we esports, baby. You always hear.
Oh yeah.
But I love it. Mm-hmm. I love the fighting game community. It was like my original arcades fighting games.
That's me.
My best friend owned a convenience store called Variety Fair. We cracked it and just had free play to Street Fighter 2 my entire life.
Tekken Street Fighter 2 is one of the greatest games of all time.
There is no worse feeling in a fighting game than King just rolling you around the arena and you not being able to do anything. You can't do anything.
You're like trying to get out of the
deck. There's nothing worse. So Tekken 8, Cog.
Yeah, bro. I'm from that. Like, you're preaching to my soul right now. Like, I'm 30 years deep. Come from the arcade. I came from the New York Chinatown competitive arcade. That was my esports. Did
you meet the boys? Like Justin Long and all of them?
Yeah, all of them. Me and King used to go there. I was that guy. Like, I was in my hey, I was that guy.
Yes, you were a dude. I've heard.
Yeah, so pretty much I came from that, and then that's where I really fell in love with PlayStation because we come from the era with consoles. Before that, let's be honest, when the arcade version came out and then you got the console version, you're like, it's not kind of the same. It's kind of good fidelity. You learned that arcade was next gen in our time, right? But when Tekken 1 came out, don't get me wrong, Virtual Fighters was still the cream de la crop from a fidelity standpoint, right? But Tekken came out. I'm like, all right, this is cool. Not as good looking as First Fighter, but it's good. Then I get PlayStation 1, and I remember they were like, yo, the System 11 board is the same one that's powering the arcade. And I remember getting it home, and I was like, yo, this is literally the arcade version. Yeah. And you have extras. You got the endings and more characters. And then the love for the series started.
You don't have to keep putting quarters in.
I am ashamed to say
paid off.
Like, in terms of when Tekken 1 came out for the PlayStation 1, there was Battle Arena Toshinden. I was on the Toshinden guy.
Apology accepted. Toshinden fire. What?
Not until Tekken 2 did I learn.
Yeah. Tekken probably took off 2 and 3. 3 is its height. Yes. 2, you saw the jump, and then 3, you're like, okay, but I'm with you, Battle Arena Toshinden, the guy that had the big, I think his name, he had the big rock thing. I know you're talking about. Yeah.
Or there was you could play as that final boss, and like,
yes.
If you got into the red, you could spam the super move like Shishiho. and he just
Yeah.
threw
Oh,
the
yeah.
glass
Yeah,
across
yeah, I'm
the
looking at it.
table. And
I ain't gonna hold you, Jason. I betrayed the hell out of Sega when I saw us the PlayStation.
oh my god,
I
bro.
said, "Oh my god, Saturday doing this." I
Yeah.
was like, "I'm in. I'm over here. This is where I'm at now." But anyway, so pretty much I still with Tekken, and then I kept the competitive seed. But yeah, to see Tekken 8, the reason why you should give it a try is because this is the ultimate in learning how to onboard people who don't play fighting games or have been away. And the key is that Ghost. This is where AI. I'm gonna be honest with you. AI is looking really phenomenal with this Ghost battle and replay system. So what happens is you download my Ghost, has all my characteristics, tendencies, but on an extremely accurate level, right? So you can practice against the pros. But the key to me, where it takes it to the next level, is the replay system. So let's just say you fight online, you get thrashed, right? Every game that you play in Tekken, it goes into my replays. You
Yeah,
go into
yeah,
my
yeah.
replay, and then the game freeze frames while you're watching it. Hey, you know what? When you block that or you got hit by that, you know you could have ducked that. That was high. And then you can go into the replay in real time and practice and take control of your guy and practice against what was being done to you. I'm telling y'all right now, for the FGC, it's mind blowing. And then playing against the top pros and seeing how your skills go there. So
Yeah, that's
UE5
pretty cool.
phenomenal. Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
best looking
that's the
game.
next level. I didn't even know that because they've had the replay feature in Street Fighter for a long time. But in terms of that minute level of dissection, that's
Oh,
impressive. Man, I just love these games. I just don't have the time, and
I
it
know.
hurts.
I know. That's
But I
hard.
love
All
innovative
my
stuff
friends,
like
I have
that.
friends. I have friends
That's
without
amazing.
kids. Are
Yeah.
you getting? Did you get Street Fighter 6? Did you get the new Guilty Gear? I'm like, no. Like,
It's too much.
but the thing is, like Cog, I actually do end up buying them because I just want to support them.
Yeah,
But I never play them. Like, I don't even bother. I look at it like longingly with a tear in my eye. Like,
I know, like I wish I had time. You
yeah,
brought up the
Well, you don't
zeitgeist
have
stuff.
you don't have to play everything all the way through either.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to buy a game and just
you
play a few
know,
hours
Eric,
of it,
Eric,
It's okay.
this is our difference. You know, this is the difference between you and
Yes,
me.
you're a completionist and I'm
You
a
can appreciate
slacker.
No, I get you. And then the last one is obviously. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eric. You were
No,
saying
no,
something.
go ahead. Yeah, what's the last one? I want to
Yeah,
hear.
the last one is obviously Final Fantasy. I just
Okay.
started.
Yeah.
I'm a
Rebirth?
huge. Yeah, I'm a huge 7 guy. So
See,
7's my
this is
heart.
something I learned recently, but I didn't know you were a big Final Fantasy guy.
Oh, huge. I was there from the original. Again, remember, PlayStation 1 is one of my favorite, PlayStation. So when I remember seeing that game when it came out, that changed the game. That made it more casual for people to understand what JRPGs were. And just, I remember seeing a summon for the first time, and I was just like,
Oh,
what is
yeah.
going on? What is this Leviathan knighted around? What is happening? Like I was like blown away. So yeah, I'm a huge Final Fantasy. 7 is definitely one of my favorites, and I think this is ballsy what they're doing. It's very controversial. I know some people feel away, in reference to the direction of where they might be going with this, but yeah, I love it. So I just started that. Complete. I got the demo, and then it took you on to the demo. I'm early. I'm only like a few hours in, so I'm gonna get going on that and try to get that rocked out. And I got to link up with Bradley because I think we're going to talk about it on Monday.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did you finish Remake?
yes.
What'd you think?
I did not finish Remake.
All
I'm
right.
sad to say.
I secretly love it because I think this is the most ballsy thing you can do to your audience. So there's a part of me now, they could screw this up depending on how this trilogy ends. We don't know. But I like the creative ballsiness in this. I like what, obviously you guys played it. I don't want to spoil too much for anyone listening that hasn't, but I've never seen a remake kind of do something like this. And it's fun to me because I love this world so much. I just want to see how they handle and how the execution is. But yeah, I did like it. I did like it a lot. What about you? What was your thought?
Final Fantasy's
Are
always
you a purist?
Final Fantasy's always kind of been a little ballsy about remaking shit though, right? Like, because honestly, my Final Fantasy adventure started with 3. Final Fantasy 3 is still probably my
6.
favorite Final
6.
Fantasy.
You
Well,
mean
yeah,
6.
I mean, but
well, with Kefka, that
But
one.
3 in North America, but 6.
yeah, I know. But for yeah, exactly. But like and like the radical changes from each one, and now they're remaking 7 in a way that it's fundamentally different in so many ways, and it's great. I love that they do that. I
Well,
love that they.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, that was the other thing I wrote for Cog's site, that Final Fantasy is all. I forget how I titled it, but
Mhm.
the one thing it's always been about change, not tradition. It is the
Yes.
least
Yeah.
traditional
Good
pillar
point.
RPG franchise that there is. Dragon
Good point.
Quest, very traditional, but you go along the board. Every Final Fantasy has changed in every key aspect along the board from gameplay. It's always I always use, and the reason I wrote this is because at the advent of 15 and then 16, it's like, why do they care about visuals so much? Just bring it back to traditional. I'm like, if you look throughout Final Fantasy's histories, it has always been on the apex of visual excellence for the
Absolutely.
capabilities of that time.
And music.
And sound and presentation and everything. And it's always evolved with the generation. Like Final Fantasy hasn't been turn-based in 2 decades. And people keep talking about like it was around the corner. And it's like, man, this series is always something different. And let's embrace it for that. I'm not saying like the traditional elements are there, like the chocobos, the music, but everything has changed. The setting, the characters, the worlds. It's steampunk. It's 16 took it to finally like a traditional game, like old
Game of Thrones,
fantasy, Game of Thrones.
Right. You're driving a car. Now you're in a medieval setting.
Exactly.
Like,
Which
and
really
I can tell you what I prefer personally, but yeah, I mean, at least there's something fresh. Or you take 14 and you just totally do it again, So yeah, like there's a lot. It's a very unique franchise in the video game industry, no doubt.
It's like it's everything to me. Like I walked out to the Final Fantasy theme for my wedding. Like, I mean, like that was it. And my wife's still married.
I got divorced to Final Fantasy. I'm just kidding. No.
You got me out of here.
So, Eric, what's up? Games, just COD nonstop or what?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just trying to get good. Like actually, no. I do play. I mean, I play a lot of games, but there was this point in time where I was like, you know what? I just want to get really good at something, like one thing, because like it takes so much time to get good at
like
something, anything, right?
Yeah.
So I chose two things, and one was Dark Souls, and one was Call of Duty. And one for me is a very solo experience. Like I go in to Dark Souls, a knight in shining armor, right, into the dark depths of hell. And I learn how to get good, right? And the other is a competitive shooter I play with friends. And so those are kind of like, and I obviously there's multiple games in both of those series, but that's where a lot of my focus is. I have been playing like Persona 3 Reload. I love the Persona games. Some of my favorite JRPGs. I played a little Helldivers. It's very Starship Troopers. Cracks me up. It's funny.
Hilarious.
But really, I feel like I need my friends to get on board for me to really love that game because it's.
I've been bugging you. You don't listen.
I don't listen. It's because it's because I'm an insane person, okay, and I have a hard time living, so I can't put it all together, okay. I can't do the parenting and the adulting and the working and
all this life stuff,
all this real life stuff. I will, but yes, we should play.
Don't play 20 games of COD every night. Just play 10.
But I have to rank up. I'm platinum in Warzone ranked right now, and I'm trying. I'm like 50 from platinum too, and I want to go diamond. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to a couple things. Dragon's Dogma 2. I fucking love Dragon's Dogma. That's a game I played so much of, and I think it is just one of the most unique games ever made. I bought the collector's edition of Shadow of the Erd Tree for Elden Ring.
God bless you. There is no disc, but I love you.
I want the statue. I want the statue of Mesmer.
The thing is, like,
gorgeous. I just want.
Yeah, I got her up there.
I have her too. Yeah,
I know you do, and I kind of want to buy it.
I feel you,
my man.
Yeah. No, you gotta have the statues. The figurines, whatever you want to call them. That comes out a day after my birthday, so I could justify buying it for myself as a birthday present. So,
I am all on board on spending $300 a collector's edition. All on board.
No, I love it. Absolutely.
I keep them in business.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
The physical market.
Yeah, exactly.
On that topic, UPS just called me with an urgent. I have to call UPS because my Rebirth collector's edition is lost somewhere.
Oh no!
18 inches of Sephiroth is not at my house at this moment in time. It's a joke. Like I saw it. February
18
12th.
inches of Sephiroth is either a porn or a metal band. I don't know which, but I don't know that I want to know.
Hey, Grace, I got all these collector's editions. They're everywhere, and I do not. I got there's Cloud here. It's dark.
Cloud joint. Yep, I see it.
I love it. And
nice.
Yeah. God, what else? I still need to I need to beat Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, me too. I got to get back to that.
It's just these long games, man. It's just like it's tough. I've been playing like I really like competitive shooters, so I play Valorant, Counter-Strike 2, all that stuff. I need to get into I really haven't played the finals since it launched. I played the finals in beta and I didn't love it. But I really like competitive games at this point in my life. I guess I always have. I really like intensely solo games, and I really like intensely competitive games. I'm not a really big co-op gamer, so like I really like either testing myself against the system, going into Dark Souls, going into one of those types of games, or I like testing myself against other players, seeing if I can improve my skills. And I think that's what does it for me. For like Dark Souls, Call of Duty couldn't be more different in a lot of ways, but both of those games constantly test my skills, and I am very, very invested in like improving my skills as a gamer, especially as I get older, where embarrassingly, like my 13-year-old can like never play Call of Duty and then play once with me, and he's like, haha, I'm better than you. And I'm like, yeah, I hate you. But like I'm at this point where I don't want to play so many games that I'm not good at any of them. I want to play like just enough games where I can like hone my skills. So that's kind of where I'm at, like personally with games right now. So yeah, that's kind of it.
When I was in high school, I dated this Korean girl, and again, her family owned a convenience store, and I thought I was on top of my Street Fighter game. Alpha 3 was out, whatever. I roll over to her house, do you want to play some video? I mean, she was cool as fuck. Do you want to play some video games? I'm like, absolutely. Street Fighter, no problem. Her little brother rolls in, dusts me, 10-1, like destroys me. And I'm like, and I honestly, I was legit angry. Like, legit angry.
Like damn, I thought I was good. I have
like,
many moments like that in gaming.
Yeah, like I can't concentrate with you here. Like, as this. I'm like, but I was like, and I went home, back to the lab for 3 months.
Went to the dojo hard.
Busted him.
Montage.
Like, I went back. I'm like, yo, where's your brother at? Where's
he coming through today? Is that happening?
No.
That's that competitive spirit. We and you built the same. Yeah. I'm like, yo, I got to see him again.
Yeah, that's good. That's part of gaming, right? Like that drive to be better, that drive to learn.
And honestly, Cog, by the 8th game, he wasn't even trying. Like, he's just doing dumb shit because he's like, this guy sucks. You know when guys
you can tell when you're getting toyed with?
With you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's fun when you're the guy toying.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I find like in COD, like I'll play I'll play a match and I'll be like, wow, I'm toying with these fuckers. Like, they're so bad. I'm so good. And I'm toying with them. And then the next match, I'm like, fuck.
Yep.
I am getting my ass handed to me so hard. Me. Like, and then that's where you get that instinct to be like, cheaters! I'm hacking. But no, they're just better than me, Like,
there's that meme about competitive matchmaking. You win one game and it's like you're just versus like Colossus after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One game and then you just lose 6 straight because you're against guys that just destroy you.
Yeah, but you know what? That makes you better. This is what, whenever people complain about matchmaking issues, and yeah, there are some, but I'm always like, you know what? The only way you get better at games, just like the only way you get better at anything in life, is if you're challenged. Yes, you don't get better playing people that you toy with. You get better by playing people who kick your ass.
Yep.
That, whether that's sports, whether that's video games, whatever that is, like, the best thing you can encounter in life is people who are better at you than something, so that you lose.
I guess the only pushback I'll have on that, Eric, is when I roll up in the court on a pickup game, I can pick my team. When I go on a competitive matchmaking system, for some reason I win 2 games, I'm feeling good. Their other team is loaded, and then I get mashed up with some guys, and it's like it never seemed to be like a good give and take game where you lose. And I don't
It can
even
be
if I
bad
lose
sometimes.
those,
Yeah.
if I lose those, I'm like, good, great game, whatever. But it's like you just get rolled, like roll tide, done. And it's
Also,
over.
to be fair, if I go to play a pickup game of like basketball right now, I am old and overweight, and I will probably get my ass handed to me regardless of
You're
picking
like
teams. So
what's his name? What's the actor that died of the heroin overdose? Make it rain.
Make it rain.
Rain dance. Who's that?
I forget his name. I know I can see him visually. Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah. No, he was never a great basketball player.
No, he's in that movie with,
no, I know, just kidding.
Ben Stiller. Yeah. What am I playing?
What you playing?
Okay, I'm playing Odin Sphere.
Oh, okay.
Because I am just a massive. I've wanted to play this game forever. I played the original on PS2, and it was a tough sell. They refined it with lift, riser, whatever, how you spell the collectors. I don't really know. It's something. But they refined it. The game is way too long. But I'm in it. I'm like 55 hours in it, and I have to finish it. I have to.
Yeah, you got to see it, though.
Helldivers 2, I'm like level 9. I've got kicked from the last 3 games I've been in because I have no idea what I'm doing half the time. Like, everyone seems to know what they're doing. Like, they know all like the spots where the samples
can
are.
Players kick each other?
No, they kick me after. No, they drag my ass to the finish line, and then they're like, "This guy's out," and then I guarantee they blow me, so you never have to play with me again.
I hate games that let you just kick people who are new, because it's like you can never learn then.
But I'm not new. I'm level 7. Like
that's new. That sounds really new to me. Level 7 sounds like
it is kind
very
of
new.
Like,
yeah,
it is kind of new. But like I roll in, I'm not getting destroyed. I'm contributing. My loadout isn't like the hotness or anything like that, but it's fine. I do the things, but I guess I kind of just follow guys, and they seem to all know what they're doing. They know where everything is.
Everything's
and I just sort of go along, right? Like they're raising the satellite. I'm like, I didn't even know the satellite was here. Whatever. Yeah. But the game is astronomically fun. The moment to moment.
It's goofy too. It's goofy fun.
Like, yeah. It's these moments, goofy. And then that whole. What kills me is the montages online mixed with the Vietnam aspect.
Hilarious.
Creedence Clearwater Revival, just that feeling. And it's like this game that PlayStation had no faith in. They didn't really promote it. They put it day and date with Foam Stars.
I can't believe how little promotion went into the launch of this game. It was. It was a dark horse. Yeah.
Like a meteor. It's crazy. I mean, I can't believe it's as I don't think it is like that good.
Right.
But I mean, what does that mean?
It's a cool concept though.
It doesn't have to be this 98 game, whatever the Metacritic, it doesn't matter. Is it a lot of fun? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it has the staying power with randoms, but if you're with friends, like you say, those moments that insular narrative is the key, because ragdolling yourself off a fucking hill while the bugs are coming, and then this giant, you're focused on this target. You're like, all right, let's hold up. Let's call the stratagems, whatever. And then you look behind you, and there's just this swarm of bugs coming. You're like, oh shit! It's a blast. Like it is a blast. Like
games should be fun. What?
Yeah, no, we don't have to spend all this money for the graphical belly. We actually have fun. This.
And it's obviously Rebirth. I started up, but my problem with Rebirth, I take like 35 pictures every 5 minutes.
Because so
good. Like with the filters and the shit. Good. Thankfully, they don't have like an incredible photo mode. Like you can't vignette.
Oh, they will. Don't worry. They'll update it. Then like, there will be. Then you'll have to play it again and take all the photos again. Photo mode is dangerous. I've had to like literally promise not to use it in some games, because it's like I will just do that. Sometimes it's either photo mode or it's like character creation or just these random things where it's like, okay, no, I'm not going to just spend all my time.
That was me,
angling the shot and just.
Sometimes I don't know why I do it, because I don't even look at them. But like I'll post stuff. I'll post stuff because I love the pictures. I actually think I'm really good at it. Like I like the after shots, like
And
Kratos
that's what
is
they
drifting
want you to
in the
think.
veins. He's like, like, and then you zone in
Yeah.
on it. And you're like,
Fire.
that's a dope shot. That took me
Yeah.
like 10, 12 minutes. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. Okay. But anyway,
Okay.
Rebirth is the game for me. But
Nice.
again, Cog, like
I'll get
something
there
about me
eventually.
is like, I rarely play games day and date.
Mm.
I hate that like patches later seem to make the game so much better.
Got you.
Like for instance, like Witcher 3, I waited a
Yeah.
year and I played a better game. Bloodborne, I played a better game.
What?
We talked about this all. No Man's Sky, perfect example, still getting
Mhm.
better. And it's like
That's maybe the best example of any game I can think of.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many games out there that I don't feel the need to jump in day and date, but I feel like Rebirth is one I have to because it's going to get spoiled for me if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's
feel like I was actually talking to somebody recently. As a game reviewer, I became very jaded with the entire experience for a lot of reasons. Both it's very time consuming, it's not particularly profitable, and
where you guys don't make a
the
lot of
thing
money
that's
from the developers.
released is often a subpar product to what eventually comes out much, much later. And if you're just rushing to review a game right when it comes out, you're kind of screwed. Like you're facing 150 other reviews.
Yeah.
So your traffic's going to take a hit, and you're playing a game that and then there's this conflict in where it's like you're reviewing for consumers so that they know what they're getting into. But at the same time, as a critic, as someone who's playing a game to experience it on a critical level, like, is it worth playing that game when it comes out? Or is it better to wait, like you said, a year for The Witcher? For me, like I think about Cyberpunk.
Oh,
When
yeah,
it
that was
launched,
very
it was a total disaster, and it's so much better
good.
now. As a reviewer, is it your job to review the thing as it is released? But as a critic, is it your job to like review the thing as it is meant to be? And there's a tension there that I have a really hard time with video games, especially
No,
because as a thing that makes me money personally, it doesn't. Reviewing games is almost worthless. 70 hours for one review, it's like working for like pennies, you know?
I had this
Like so for like
conversation
like it's not it so you have to like think of it in a different way and in different terms. And that for me is something I've been struggling with for a decade, you know?
I had this conversation with Per Snyder years and years ago of IGN
Pierce, yeah.
about how to curate their audience and conform them because I feel like, and they continue to do it on your. Before I say what I'm going to say, like you look at a guy like Angry Joe, whether I like his reviews or not, he still garners that audience weeks after release. So I feel like quality review is there, people follow the quality of the follow. And with a platform like IGN, I felt like they could have done that rather than chasing the new.
Right.
And they just never did. And I
But
felt
they're a trade publication. They need to provide
they are
reviews
now
in a timely fashion.
Back in when I had this conversation was like 2012. And I felt like they had a chance when they still had their personalities and to really make it like an event type thing and to maneuver around this need to be first because everyone was going to read them regardless. It didn't matter. So they could have like let's if your goal like you say it is to deliver the best critical analysis to the fan and the consumer, well it's not day and date. That's not possible.
Right.
But it fell on deaf ears and away the trolley train goes, right? But,
definitely my best and most successful reviews have been months late. Probably my best review, best received, is for The Last of Us Part 2. And I was blacklisted by Sony before that came out, so I did not get a review copy. And I bought it and I played it, and it took me weeks to write that review. It was a very difficult review to write because I had really conflicted feelings. And so my review came out several months after every other review came out, and it performed very well in terms of traffic. I think it was a good I think it was a good and thoughtful review, and to me that review was when I was like, you know what, I'm just not going to write reviews like this anymore for video games. I just don't think that's where I'm useful.
And
There's a
again, this
lot of
is
people,
another conversation I'd love to have about how
yeah,
we.
and it's probably a super long conversation, and
It
we should
is,
probably
and
wrap
it,
this
it
up.
can be
But
incredibly interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It just,
but there's a lot of different people writing a lot of different kinds of reviews, a lot of different kinds of criticism, and uh, video games are unique in that, like, I've moved a lot towards television, right? Where I can watch a 1-hour episode of television and write a review of it. And that makes sense. You write a review right then when it airs. But a 75-hour video game,
how do you do
and
that?
these reviewers are getting a copy 4 days before it comes out,
Yeah.
and they're
That's not
supposed to write a
possible.
review. I mean, that just feels exploitative and
I
shitty to
agree.
me. Like,
I agree.
I had a young video game journalist messaging me the other day about Final Fantasy and the time they put into it, and I was just like, man, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
This whole thing is bullshit. Like, this idea that you can get a copy of this game 3 days before it comes out and write a valuable review
Right.
based on playing the whole thing in a few days. It's insane.
Like, yeah, like what worth does that actually
Yeah.
have? It
And
has none.
it's not humane. It's not humane to the person doing the review. That's not how you should play video games. Aren't video games
Absolutely.
supposed to be fun?
There you go. That's what
But
we
even
tell them.
still, like that doesn't even echo the average person's play experience. So the
Never.
review
Not at
wouldn't
all.
echo
Yeah.
the average
Right.
person's experience.
It's supposed to be fun. We play an hour a night. We play 2 hours a night. We play maybe some people play an hour a week. Nobody plays okay. Some people play 15 hours a day, but that's not very common.
Mm-hmm.
I've been questioning the process of video game reviews and how they work and how the scoring works for over a decade, and I still do. And that's probably, you're right. That's a conversation for another time. We need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation, especially about Xbox,
Yeah.
especially having someone on here who's an Xbox aficionado, because I feel often when I sort of like talk about Xbox in hopeful terms, very alone. Very alone.
It's a lonely existence.
I got a target on my back. So
I hear you. That was just fun, man.
Before we sign up, Eric, do you have to go?
I don't have to go. But I know we talked about like around.
Yeah, we're gonna go. I just wanted to talk to
around this time. So
one, we'll geek out about Sega for a few minutes, but I wanted to pick up one.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of your health initiative in terms of earning your gaming. Not my gym activity has laid to the wayside lately, but that's only because of kids. I consider myself a very active person. I take pride in it.
All I hear is excuses.
No, it is truth, and that is the truth. Like, there's always times where you can get up earlier, and I'm dead serious, and I try. Like, brother, I get up at 5:30, and
at night,
my son chooses chaos and gets up at 6:10. There is no winning at this point. It is very difficult, but I'll get there. Aside from that, I grew up in an era where if I wasn't playing video games, I was out playing every sport imaginable, running the streets until them street lights came on.
Same.
And I know things have changed a lot, but it harkens back to the era in terms of when I was a kid, I had to earn my game time. Like, if I wasn't active, my parents weren't going to let me play. And I like that you have a voice and a platform, and you've been pushing that sort of narrative. Have you always been into health and working on yourself, or is that a relatively new thing for you?
Yeah, it's always been there. It's always been there. It's one of those things that we share that. Like, I come from that, kind of like jock, played basketball, played football, competitively for a while, and then got to high school and went to college, then I got hurt. And then it was one of those
then I got hurt.
Yeah, then I got hurt.
Then I got hurt. Yeah.
But then it was like, all right, let me maintain it. But the thing that for me is I was in this weird pocket growing up where I was cool with the jocks and the cool kids, but I still the geeks with my homies. You know what I'm saying?
I loved Japanimation. And comics, but I played every sport and every all-star team. You know what I mean? It was
same.
Everyone. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, please.
And I've heard people act like gaming was always mainstream. No, it was not. It was not. It was a nerdy thing.
Facts.
Dungeons and Dragons and Japan, it's anime, but we called it Japanimation.
Animation.
all this bullshit. Like it was this
It was not
different
mainstream.
sect.
Wait, people say that was mainstream?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
they
do.
think
They
so.
act
They
like
forget
gaming
the
was
time.
always a thing. Like it
It
was
was
always
never
this
cool.
accepted thing.
You guys
Yeah.
ever
It was
read
not a cool thing.
Dragonlance? The Dragonlance books?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with the kid of the author of
Oh
Dragonlance,
wow.
Tracy.
Oh yeah?
Hill.
Nice.
Yeah, we played D&D together in junior high.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
did anybody else play D&D? Fuck no. That
No.
shit
Hell
was,
no.
Pogs were more mainstream than D&D. Yeah, no, that was not, that nerdy
Yeah.
shit was, now they're trying to make it mainstream, but I'm still not
Now.
convinced that
But
it
it's funny to
is.
see like the cool kids now and everyone accept it, but from our era, it
It
was
wasn't.
not. And
No, it was
yeah,
not.
those kids were clowned or beat up.
Yeah,
So for me, it was just like, no, you're not gonna mess with these are my dudes. Right? We would
right.
trade Sega
Likewise,
games
I'm the
or
same. I had
Yeah,
to like defend it,
defend them. Like you're
but
not gonna
also
do
like
that.
I
trepidatiously
100%,
introduce it to the
100%.
jock guys. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yes. Because they couldn't understand, like, why are you hanging out with the dudes? I'm like, bro. And it was so funny when you start to see the transformation and it, like, whenever you catch one game that hits the mainstream, and then it's like, oh, now you like video games
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Now,
Look at this.
exactly. That
Yeah.
was the sell. So yeah, from that. So, fast forward, you get older, and then, we all move apart, even people get married and stuff like that. And that's cool. But then what was happening is this is what I would notice. I would go to the conventions, I'd go out. I'm like, damn, my people are not taking care of
Yes.
ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
I'm noticing like the merch or the Iron Lord shirt podcast shirts and stuff we send this. It's always 5X that we sell.
No one
But those
buying
are
the mediums.
bro, the medium and the large ain't moving. I'm like, damn, we got some big boys out here.
We either need to get the guys in shape or we need to get more girls into gaming.
One of the case, right? Get active. So I would just say, look, we got to be better because I lost about, shout out to my boy Lord Whiskey. I lost two people. One thing is very prominent in us: suicide,
Yep.
and overweight, obesity. And
Yep.
I just said, look, one, gaming is supposed to bring us together. That's number one. Two, let's earn the right. Because I was like, don't you want to be around when the new Final Fantasy and the
Right.
new Elden Ring deal? Don't you want to be here? like that was my sell to people, that my brothers that I see they were teetering. They really wasn't doing well physically. And just to get them on that. So yeah, it's been that. I've been obviously I worked at Meta for a little bit. So I used to be part of the VR, the Supernatural and all of that stuff as well. What's funny with Xbox though, well, don't laugh. When the Kinect came out, they had Xbox Fitness, Kinect 2 on Xbox One. That was they had Insanity and P90X and all that stuff on it.
No,
That thing
it
was
was
that sensor
yes.
would tell me when I wasn't correct. It was like, no, your form was wrong. You gotta do that set over. I'm like,
Your blood pressure's too high. You need to work on your cholesterol.
Talk about blood pressure. Look at my face. I run a 180 over 100. Okay, I
I'm worried
already
about
need
you.
blood pressure. My blood pressure is just through the fucking roof. So don't
So-
even
bring that down, brother. We got to bring that down.
I'm a huge proponent of physical fitness. It is what I say, exercise the demons, like
Yes.
it is literally
Yeah.
like I'm a crazy depressive motherfucker if I don't exercise.
It's a fact.
This week I have hit the gym almost every single day. I've hit it hard as fuck. And like I feel like a million bucks.
Get it
Like I
out.
feel good as shit.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
earn my video game time. I earn my time
Nice.
on the couch watching a movie.
Nice.
And I try to push that with my kids, but they're teenagers, so anything I try to make them do, they do the opposite of it. But
Yes.
I bribe them. And but I seriously think that a lot of these people who are on, whether they're on video games or Twitter or whatever they're doing on their screens, if they would spend more time hiking in the woods, lifting weights, jogging
That's
on a
our era.
treadmill,
We were
jogging
outside.
going on fucking walks, whatever they're doing, getting some exercise, that taking care of your physical self takes care of your mental and spiritual self.
Yes.
And vice versa. It's all connected. And I think video games are wonderful ways to spend your time. But if all I did was sit around and shoot people in Call of Duty and I didn't go out and lift weights, and I didn't go out and jog, and I didn't do those things, I'd probably just want to shoot myself. And that I don't know. Like I'm not to make light of suicide. I think suicide.
No, it's real. It's
Like
real.
I make a joke, and that's just gallows humor. But suicide is a terrible, horrible thing, and it's a real thing. It's a real thing in these communities, and like I've had a lot of issues with mental health. Physical fitness for me has been the best antidepressant, the best
Absolutely.
guardian against dark thoughts and demonic thoughts and
Mhm.
all of that. It's essential.
Yeah, no, very well said.
There
And then
was
also, yes,
in terms
please.
of in terms of mental health, I recently saw a graph that I feel like, listen, I'm not an expert. I'll preface on that, but I've read enough. I feel a lot of people just get enveloped by their mental health issues and depression issues. But it is there's a
It's easy
recent
to
study
do.
that it is demonstrably depression can be affected by and they measured this by physical activity. Dance, believe it or not, was the number one
Hmm.
influencer of adjustment to depression in terms of now there was a whole scale of physical activity that affected these things. But it's like get active, you will feel better, full
Yeah.
stop. I'm not telling you it's going to beat your depression or
Yeah.
whatever. I mean,
It's
I
gonna
may have
help.
personal
It's
thoughts on
gonna
that,
help.
but to everyone out there, physical activity, like sometimes you walk up to the machine or you look at the ground, and you're like, man, these 30 push-ups are going to be hard.
They're gonna be
But
hard.
after you do them, you feel great.
Yes.
And then it makes you want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you're younger or you don't have kids, physical activity is easy. You have all the time in the world.
Facts.
Just do it. Your body will thank you. And honestly, in terms of a gaming aspect, your mind will be much more receptive to those stories and the competition you want to bring. Like getting out physical aggression in terms of a working out atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
will do wonders for you sitting down in terms of a COD thing. You're not going to want to just lose it on that 15-year-old that just murked you 5 times. You're not going to, you're going to be like, you know what? I don't have to take out the aggression in that way. I'm zen. I just, you know what I mean? I did something today.
Yes, you took it out over
And it
there. No,
matters. Like,
absolutely.
and like we are all older. I'm sorry, Cog. How old are you?
47.
See,
47.
you're the oldest among us.
I'm the
I turned
oldest.
45 this year.
Yeah.
And
youngest to heart though, clearly. So
yeah. You certainly don't like black don't crack. You don't look 47.
We out here.
You know what I mean? You look 40. I walk through the parks and I see the kids. Physical activity is in need.
Yes.
It's in need.
And I'm with
but
my
it's all connected, man. That physical activity and that social activity. You know,
Yes.
I've got friends who are teachers and professors, and they, you know, they talk about going into their classroom. 5 years ago, they'd walk into the class, everybody's blah blah blah, talk. Now they walk in, everybody's on their phone,
on the phone like that.
You know, and it's the same thing. It's there's a social disease going on, and the only way to fix that is changing, you know, fundamentally how we interact with the world. Whether that's, you know, you're going to go like I woke up this morning and I was just like, fuck it. I am going to the gym. Like I'm going. I'm tired. It's 40 minutes from now. I'm just going to get up and I'm going to go. I don't even give a shit. Like I don't want to. What I want to do is just lay here and do nothing. But I'm going to go.
Like for
but it's also like, you know what? I don't want to leave my house, but I'm going to go out. I'm going to be social. I'm going to be a part of the world. I'm going to be part of the community. I'm going to be part of the thing. And gaming is a great example of how you can be part of that in a global sense. You can be part of it with people from all over the world, but you can't just sit at your computer or your console playing games. You got to also get out and fucking
there's a whole world out there.
You got to move. You got to move your bodies. You got to move your
whole world out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in and of like for the 50 people or whoever the hell listens to this, just showing up is a win. It is a win because all you in life, honestly, half the battle is showing up. The amount of people that have made millions of dollars on just showing up is insane.
You
show up, you're gonna do a little bit more too.
Yep.
But just show up.
Yeah, you already won. That's why I usually try to just put the pictures out there. A lot of it is just like, hey, I'm here. I didn't want to be here. I'm tired. I could have used 1,000 excuses not to be here. I'm there. And then the other thing with me is, you know, gaming is so crucial and critical. It saved my life. So for me, I also like to have, I'm a big video game music, you know, person. So there's certain songs that you remember, that boss fight, you like, you know, we fight up the Sephiroth music, whatever it is. That you remember exactly what you're doing, how challenging, and it brings an emotional response. And I'm a person that hates cardio, like I despise it.
Every
So
person that goes hard at the gym hates cardio. Everyone.
I love cardio, but I also hate cardio.
So for me, that's what I have my little video game soundtrack, and that helps me push through. It puts me in a good place, or puts me in a mood.
Dude, I was if I was at my gym and I was on the treadmill and they were playing it's the boss fights from Final Fantasy, I would be running a lot harder.
So
I don't want to hear.
That's what I do every time I go there.
I've indoctrinated my son, who is 3. For some reason, he calls it bad guy music. Daddy, let's hear the bad guy music. So I toss on the Final Fantasy 16, like away from Final Fantasy 16, and I just boom, and I just crush it. And I look in the back, and he's just doing that. Like this is the best thing in the world. Like he can listen to anything in the world, but he's listening to my music, and then I introduce everything else. But
nice,
like I'm a big video. We can do a video game podcast in the future. I actually talked to Alex Bukala. I don't know. Is that how you pronounce his last name? I don't think so. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah. It's something like, really nice guy, epically fashionable. Love his style. I'm trying to get him on the podcast, but video game music is first and foremost with me. And on that front, there are so many ditties from art. Like half the reason I wanted you to come on was to talk about. And this is what we'll end off on.
All right.
I am like, that was my form. That was my thing. Me, you, and Eric, you were a Sega guy to an extent as well, right?
Yeah. Oh no. Sega Master System was like a jam. Back in the day, man. Fucking
in the world.
The 3 that was part of
held down the block.
Yeah, we had the user base locked down in our respective areas.
Wonder Boy 2 and Wonder Boy 3 on Sega Master System were some of my finest moments in my entire life. I didn't actually own it, but my friend did.
Anytime.
Fantasy Star Wars.
Oh, dude, that was a great time. Great time for games. And oh god, what else? What was the ninja game back on the Sega?
Well, he's about to say it. Cog's game is Shinobi.
That's Shinobi. That's what I'm trying to say. I fucking love Shinobi. Holy shit! I haven't played it. I've played 30 years, but my god, what a great game! And see, I didn't own the Sega Master System, but my friend did, and I would go to his house and we would play all those games all the time. Oh my god, what a great! My parents wouldn't buy me. Actually, when my parents finally bought me a Nintendo, an NES, when I was 10, there is video footage of this. They told me they would never buy me a video game console. They were very, very conservative. I opened this present and it was the NES, and my 10-year-old self literally broke down into tears, just weeping.
So when we
enjoy. There's footage of it somewhere. I don't know where, but yes, I never had a Sega. I never owned a Sega, but I loved Sega game. I loved that I had friends who had the Master System. I don't even know if I ever had a friend who owned the Genesis, but the Master System was great.
Well, this is how Cog and I got in touch, more or less. I grew up with Steve Danton, who is a indie developer of 2 Ton Studios. And like we from kids, I'm talking like kids, like
the
whole way through, like 7, 8, 9, 10 formative years.
Nice.
And we held down the Sega Master System block through and through. And Steve is your age. He might be I think he's your age. Anyway.
Yeah, we're in the same pocket.
But like when it came to like the hard games, we would lock Steve in a room and open the crack of the door to see how he was doing. And bro, if he was not doing well, he'd throw a shoe at us or something. And I talk about like now I kick his ass left, right, and center. But I talk about how he was a bit of a bully back in the day. Whatever. Like I hit the reset button. I thought it was the pause button on the Sega Master System, but I hit the reset on accident. And on Golvalius, remember the RPG?
Oh, Golvalius, yeah. Oh no!
And I reset the game. He didn't save, bro. I caught a 2-piece right there in his bedroom. Like
you gonna squabble? We squabble.
His mom had to come down and give him shit to let me back in the house.
Yo, it was serious. Yeah, that's the day. There's no save data.
No,
Like
no,
you're one
no,
sitting
you
this.
could save. You could
Yeah.
save, but like
Okay.
it was a certain spot, right?
First spot. Yes.
Yeah, and like it was
Oh,
only in like the
bro.
towns, and like you had to go out and like hours of. Now I say hours. It could have been like to us, hours was 40 minutes or 30
Yeah.
minutes. You know what I mean? Like
Time is a flat circle.
Oh, yeah.
holy shit! Don't even start.
Sorry. I'm going full circle with that shit. Sorry, I'm
We
sorry.
can treat it back to ball. Oh my
There we
god!
go. I love it. Nah, hey, man.
But
Oh,
Sega, I am, and
let's go.
I'll pop it off with this, then I'll pop it over to you.
Mhm.
I feel the Sega Master System. If you weren't in it, you missed it because as Sega guys, we got the whole Sega Master System adventure, but we still jumped over to the NES and experienced all that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it went the other way.
100%.
And like for me, I swear to God, I stand on everything with this. Like I'll put Wonder Boy 1, 2, and 3 against the first couple Zeldas on NES all day long.
2 and
Absolutely.
3 especially. 2 and 3. Wonder Boy 2 and 3.
Classics.
Fucking still just I mean, they're just such brilliant games.
Like I'll put Phantasy Star 1
Phantasy Star 1
against Dragon Warrior.
Yes.
And Final Fantasy 1 all day long. And Final Fantasy is my favorite series of all time, but Phantasy Star was better.
What? Fantasy Star was amazing.
And they
still remember
going.
Yes.
Miracle Warriors.
Miracle Warriors. Yo,
there was Novales. There was other RPGs that just and their sports games were top notch too.
Oh, top notch.
I could hit the West and East Germany in the soccer. You know, like the baseball was top notch. Everything and the uniform cases with like the graph
with the graph with the
uniform.
Yes,
it looked so nice sitting on the shelf.
Was it the mega cartridge in the card, right? You had that, bro. It was that red and black, the light gun, the whole thing. It was a thing, and for me, people don't realize like at the time they were the graphically superior console.
Yeah.
So their ports, and I remember, shout out to Sov, you know, I remember when Double Dragon came out. Theirs was actually a 2-player cooperative Double Dragon on the Master, as opposed to the NES. I had to make it 1 player, so you had advantages that so many people didn't know about it. Where me and Steven bonded was that there was this in the corner game that I thought nobody really knew about it. I loved. It was called Zillion.
Yes. I was about to say. So Zillion was the game that I'm talking about, where we Zillion 2 especially. Because remember, Zillion 1 had all the cards, but Zillion 2 was more action-based.
Yeah.
We had the motorcycle.
Yes.
And in those, we would just lock him in that area. That and Space Harrier.
Oh, get ready. That's my joy.
Every ninth stage was that like visually effed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it went super fast.
Super fast, poles all over the place, jelly bean style bullets hitting you in the face. You got to move out the way.
I remember I was in BC on a family trip. Okay, Game Pro came out. In that Game Pro magazine were codes to change the Space Harrier dude into things like a spaceship.
Oh, I never knew this.
Yes, and I remember this week-long trip was the longest trip of my life because all I wanted to do was get home and put in the code to change the Space Harrier dude with the whole cannon. I'm like, he can be anything.
That's sick. Anything. I never knew this. I remember
it was just a spaceship. Yeah, he could be like a spaceship.
That's sick. I remember the Master System. There was a game embedded in the system without a cartridge.
Yeah, it was like the maze game.
The maze game.
Yeah.
Man, crazy. That I remember it also. I think TurboGrafx eventually spawned this. They had the cards.
TurboGrafx 16.
Yeah, what you know about that?
I had a friend. Okay, so when I was in like 4th, 5th grade, you know, one of my friends had the Sega game, and then another had the TurboGrafx 16, and I was like, "Oh my god, those graphics are so good,
good, bro!
They were really good. Go. It was amazing. They didn't have a lot of games, but they were the minis. I got all these minis."
Like guys, I haven't even opened this.
Wow, the original artwork style. I remember that.
So that was only like select release, and I paid like a premium for it. But so it not only has TurboGrafx 16 games.
What else?
The engine.
Oh, that was King.
I
He
mean,
had
you should definitely
Steamboat.
open that and play those.
Yeah,
That
that's
sounds really
sick.
super
I
awesome.
didn't
I'm
know
gonna
that
leave all this
PC
stuff.
version.
I got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. It's all gonna go to him. Seriously.
Yeah, they was good, man. R-Type. They had. I remember they were big on the sprites. Was it Bonk was the hero? That Bonk's Adventure was kind of like the hero Mario
In
equivalent.
TurboGrafx, yeah.
In TurboGrafx, they had the packing was Keith's Courage Alpha Zone.
Yes, Keith Curry's out. And that was a good game.
That was a good game.
Very good game.
I was actually impressed by a game that was pretty terrible. It was a game called China Warrior, and
I remember
it was like Bruce Lee. He was this much on the screen. I was like,
it was big, like huge.
Yeah, like, look at the graphic. Like,
it's hilarious.
Games are never going to get any better than this. Like, I was blown away by that stupid game. It's so interesting the things they were doing at the time. And also when the CD came out, because King was we had a big import scene in New York City. So whenever, like I said, PC Engine, Famicom, remember they would be out a year earlier in Japan before they would make their North American release. So he would go to the importers the year they would come out and have them before them, and we were just blown away. So I remember when the the TurboGrafx 16 CD came out. And that was the first time I really heard voice, and that's the first time I saw Street Fighter 1.
Nice.
The first one, not 2. The one was yes, there's many fighters like you.
If you landed a fireball in an uppercut, it took like a whole lifetime.
Yeah, you do one fireball, one all you can, your whole life. Yeah, man, I was blown away because it had voice in the game. It was for its time. It was something that clearly iterated on that, and then it took it to the next level with Street Fighter 2. But yeah, man, so many. We had all this. Anytime a new system came out, I was the cheap one, so I would go mooch off of him. I would get his hand-me-down console, and he'd get the new one, kind of thing. But
so King is
the guy.
Yes. Yeah. How many of the guys that you podcast with are from
New York?
The whole way?
Yeah. So pretty much the way you and Steven are is me and Saul are, because he went. I've known him since we've been in every class since the 3rd grade. Right. And he lived down the street from me. He would play games. I was the one that influenced. I was like, you got to get a Sega Master System. I started my indoctrination with Sega with him early. I was like, this is what you need to get. And I have it. And we're going to be friends. That's how this is going to work. King is my cousin. He's a little older than me, right? He's also New York, whatever. And he basically, we would get him out of the projects in the wild situations. Come over here, just play games and hang out. And he would buy the system. He was the one that had money. So we like, okay, we get to see how the Famicom looks. We get to see how all this stuff and he would debut this stuff for us. And he had Neo Geo. He had everything. Like King had
the $900 Neo Geo.
$900 thing with the $200 dictionary style cartridge. Those things are crazy. Yeah. So we went through him, and then Addict I met later. That was actually through Xbox Live gaming once everyone got older, and he's the one that kind of introduced us to like YouTube and content creation. And I'm like, people really listen to podcasts all day?
Right, that's what I felt like when I first heard about it. When people were like YouTube video, I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I
was like,
no one cares about that.
Yeah, you hang out, you go to your friend's house, and I'm from that era, so it just was weird to me that people really will listen to this stuff.
Well, that's still the thing I have about like streaming, like Twitch and shit. Like I'm playing video games for myself. Like, why would I want anyone to watch me? That's like jerking off. Like, I don't want you to watch me do that. Like, I'm playing fucking video games. Like seriously. Like that's why I never like really tried to do that, because it's like that's a personal thing, man. Like,
it's personal.
No, but like I had friends like that too. Like when I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia, I had Japanese friends. A lot of my schoolmates were Japanese, so they had a lot of the like Japanese video games and consoles that were like not out yet in the US.
Yep.
But all the games that we played together were in Japanese. So like I spent a good portion of my young days playing Japanese games in Japanese.
In Japanese.
Not with Japanese friends who didn't speak English.
Give me a game.
It was amazing.
No. Give you a game? What's your question?
Yeah. Is there a game, like name one game that you played pretty much entirely in Japanese that you loved but didn't really understand?
Man, there's so many. I would say I remember the Ninja Gaiden ones.
It doesn't have to be like across, like PS1, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of the PlayStation. I would say a lot of the PlayStation 1 stuff as well, because I remember specifically the circle and the X, the confirmation were different from the
Different.
American.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you had that. Man, so many. I remember. What was it? Jumping Flash. I'm trying to remember. Battle Rendition. All those were import. All
Yes,
all
yes.
Japanese.
Dude, all the games I played that were in Japanese were Japanese titles that I couldn't read because they were in Japanese.
Yeah.
So I could never answer this
Oh,
question.
You don't know the name of the game?
Dreamcast.
No, they
Dreamcast.
were Japanese.
Japanese. I played
In-
Shinmu in full Japanese. I
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on. I was
Japanese
just like,
characters. Full
How'd you
I was
take
like, this
Cloud
looks cool.
Jobs?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, you start what it is certain sensibilities. You understand. Okay, this means yes to confirm. But
Yeah, you
start to
figure
get
it
around.
out.
Yeah, you start to figure out certain things. But yeah, we were just so amazed by how graphically amazing it
Yes.
was. It was like the
Oh, yeah.
Virtua Fighters AM2 board in this full. That was like the first time I saw like an open world game with this high fidelity graphics. You had to go to sleep. There was a time and night cycle. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was just absolutely mind blowing what that was doing on the Dreamcast. But yeah, that Soul Calibur, so many games, literally all import, all Japanese. Just learned.
So
Yeah.
I got a bit of it. So
Let's go.
from the Genesis era, we always had this in Bandito Video. This was like the legendary spot, and Steve went there too. But
Nice.
my man had the import Mega Drives. Mondu's Fight Palace was his fighting game. Okay, completely in Japanese, but all messed up, like with these deformed dudes. Really popular. We remember the Batman game that was really, really sick?
Oh, the Sunsoft one?
Yes.
That was fire.
But on the Mega Drive, like it was on the Mega Drive super early.
Yes.
That game was incredible on the Genesis.
One of the best Batman games because they had the Batmobile,
Yes.
they had the Batwing. That was a great
And it
game.
looked real nice. Like it looked
really good for its time. Absolutely.
Then I moved to Famicom. My best friend's Korean. I went to Korea when I was like 15 years old.
Oh wow!
I bought the Dragon Ball games import on cartridge. There was like 2 and 3. They were completely in Japanese, never translated. But you could like the beam battle. If you were into anime, it was like the dopeness, and it was so good, like so good.
Nice.
And then from there, I will say the creme de la creme Japanese game that I played that I know there's finally a translation I found on GameFAQs. Namco Cross Capcom. You ever heard of this game?
Oh, I never knew they did that. I never knew they did that.
It is a strategy game with all of the characters from Capcom and Namco.
And Namco?
Yes.
And
you can tag.
That does sound pretty cool.
That sounds cool.
But you got to look this up.
I'm
It's
looking
all
at
in an incredible art style. Look it up right now. You can tag guys in the battle system to perform super moves one after another. Like Bison can do like the screw attack, and then you can pull in like all these things. It is an incredible game.
Woo.
And it's finally like there's a translation online now. That is like my apex of apex Japanese games that I play.
Fire! I never knew about this. That's so crazy.
I don't want to get up right now, but it is over back there. It's buried, and I have it. It's one of the because on the PS1 you could do the trick, right? Where you actually, you know what? I think it was a PS2 game, not a PS1 game.
Yeah, it said PS2
so
here.
PS2 had a solid.
Yeah.
So I had the soldered one, obviously.
It was a long time ago. We don't remember which generation of which console it was.
Upon the second age of man.
Yes. Once there was the PS1, and then it was later the PS2. And that was a long time ago. So seriously, it was a really long time ago. We were a lot younger then.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked about this.
I was a lot poorer then, too. I could barely afford games back then. Like, remember, like, for me, like I have this sort of black hole in my gaming experience when I was no longer a child with parents who would buy me shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to buy it for myself. And so it was like you could buy the PS1.
Mm-hmm.
But then you had to like hustle the shit out of your whole life to get games for it, you know?
Right.
Like and so so you only got to play some of them.
Yes.
You know, that's my experience.
That's when the choices were very critical.
Yeah, they
were. Made poor decisions sometimes on
Absolutely. Or we bought Devil May Cry and we were like, yes. This is badass. This makes it all, but then you'd sell your console for money for.
Isn't that the worst decision we've ever made,
dude?
Original 32X Sega CD.
Oh yeah, I sold my PS1. I sold my PS2. I sold my Xbox 360. I sold a lot of shit. at yard sales just to pay the bills.
Yep.
Sega
And I
Saturns.
regret it. I have my
Saturn.
PS3. There came a time when I stopped doing that shit, but for a long time, I would sell those and my games to make ends meet, and I do regret it because those were beautiful and wonderful machines, and I wish I still
My
had them.
main goal now that I have the income, and it's not really about the means. I have the means. It's more about trying to applying it and giving the excuses to my wife about why I'm buying all these old consoles.
It's a lovely statue, okay? Yeah. I mean, it's a boss,
It means something to me, damn it. But like,
look at this red cloak they're wearing
from the Intellivision all the way up. I want every piece in like mounted in my wall, backlit as like these historical showpieces.
Like, I want to live in a museum.
He wants a museum. I love
that. Mm-hmm. Actually,
that's fair. That's fair.
Rest in peace.
We should consecrate the past. I agree.
Oh yeah, rest in peace. Okay.
Sid Bolton, who ran the Computer Game Museum, was the largest North American collection of video games, and he was competing with another guy in the States, but supposedly Sid had the most one. He died of a heart attack about 7 years ago, and he had everything. I'm talking about like everything. He was the type of guy, like he was so big he would get donations of games and hardware and stuff like that. But I got the idea for him because he didn't have he had too much stuff where it was like, I looked at his stuff. I'm like, I want that, but I wanted to make it look pretty.
Look, you want to ice it up. Yeah, I got you. You.
Yeah, this is just a storage unit filled with gorgeous things.
Well, he would have wonderful nights. He actually started teaching a course out of his house. He added an addition just to have all of his stuff. I don't know if you ever you probably won't, but Sid Bolton, SYD BOLTON was his name. And he was a great dude. He did some Canadian television with some of the Canadian video games guys.
Top video game collector, checking it out. Wow. Very impressive stuff, yeah.
But yeah.
But he's still lost in the fighting game of who gets the most stuff in the end.
Yes, for sure. And I don't know what his wife did with his collection. Yeah. Great dude. But the Sega thing was a moment in time.
Yes.
That I feel like the mainstream missed out on, because Sega Master System really sold a pittance comparatively. Yeah. But the games were all incredible.
Amazing.
And the Genesis... Also, go ahead, sorry.
I'm just going to say this, and I do have to wrap this up for myself, but arcades.
Woo!
Oh, for sure. Yeah. They held it down.
And even like...
Sega now.
Okay, even just a few years ago, I could go downtown here in Flagstaff, Arizona, little town in the mountains, to a bar where they had arcade machines. And then there's COVID.
I don't know.
And they fucking sold all their arcade machines. And it killed arcades even more than arcades were already dead. And it just sucks, man.
Sucks, man.
Because like, go into a place where you play video games with a bunch of random people in person, not online, but in person, and the people watch you. They put the quarters on the table like you're playing pool or some shit. Like that shit is fucking beautiful, and it sucks that it is dead. And I hope that it comes back. I really do.
But the thing is, even if you bring it back, it's not organic. It's more of a hobby thing.
It's not necessarily organic. It could be organic.
Yeah.
But the fact that we got to live it, like this was this thing.
It was the thing.
It was.
Like we had our shit, but the next level shit was going to the arcade.
Yeah. But I mean,
smelling those smells and putting our real money on the line and being with our people. And it was like this level
I will say this, even a few years ago. Even a few years ago when we all had PS4s and shit, before the pandemic, I could go, like here in town, we had like a restaurant bar that had arcade machines. I could go there with my friends and my kids and their kids. We could give them $20 in quarters. They could go play video games while we sat and talked and had drinks at the bar. That is a beautiful thing. That is gone now. I don't see that anymore. I would like that to come back, even if it's never going to be full on arcades like in the day, like whatever. It's that social atmosphere of like, we're going to go to a place. You're going to play as Bart Simpson and Lisa Simpson on skateboards, or the Ninja Turtles on an arcade machine, or like, Mortal Kombat,
Wolverine,
all that shit. Like, and the graphics are nothing like you could play at home. Our graphics, but we're gonna be here socially with other people. You're gonna play random strangers on the game. Your parents are gonna go over there drinking martinis, like that. Social aspect, so beautiful and wonderful, and we have lost that in a way, and like I want it back.
We definitely lost it, and
I want it back.
It's affected our social interactions.
It has.
These kids, they let's be honest, like bonds were made, friendships,
bonds are made, rivalries.
Yeah, bonds.
That's the same thing, right? Like this. Yeah, that's important. It's really important, and it's affected us as a society. I think we have moved forward as a society in a lot of really positive ways. I really do.
That's the negative one. Yeah, good point.
But I think that there are these things that it's like, we got to be careful. We got to be careful that they don't fuck us over. We got to remember that there are some things from the past. The past is full of terrible shit, but the past is also like, it has its good shit too. And I hope that we can, cultivate that, and like, the museum doesn't have to just be this place we look through the glass at. It can be a place that we inhabit. The museum can be a place that we visit and that we experience. And these old games and these old things and these old stories and these old experiences are things that we can be part of still, and that our children can be part of still, and that the future can be part of still. And I think that is worth something.
I certainly hope so. I really do. Like, I just feel like that moment in time, that when you just heard it around the corner, and Dragon Slayer, and I could feel that coming around the corner. You're never going to get it again. That feeling of 10-year-old me, 12-year-old me, just looking at this game that seemed like could not be possible. And seeing these,
but what I also see is I see kids playing games. My son on the computer playing games that are not the most mainstream games. They're playing weird games that are offbeat and different, and they're not just like the big corporate thing. And they're experiencing things in their own new way that is pretty cool. Like stuff that's off my radar. It will never be the same, but every generation will do something new and cool and awesome and sacred, and that's what we have to cultivate. I think.
I mean, if I won the lottery, I would give it to you. I would give you the arcades. I would honestly. Yes. I have this plan. I would fund the FGC would get a whole circuit of tournaments from me, and I would fund arcades. 100%.
Let's go.
So, anything else on the Sega and arcade front? But before I move to my last question, before we wrap this up.
Yeah, that literally that's what made me fall in love with Sega. Because as an arcade kid, what always amazed me about their arcade cabinets was like, it was like, hang on, you got into it. Yes. It was a bike, you put the thing, outrun the steering wheel or afterburner, you play. Like, as a kid, it was sensory overload. You're like, yo, what is this?
And you never had enough money to do enough of it.
Afterburner,
it was awesome.
Like that cabinet, the movie
cabinet,
like that was life changing.
Yes, yes, that's what I mean.
Terminator 2. John Connor was in that. Yeah,
go on. As a kid, it's just, again, those are the things you remember. And I was big. I always felt like I had like great music in the arcade for whatever reason. It's really good resonant. I remember when Super Hang-On came out and they had the speakers on the top, and it's like, what is going on with this thing? So it just translated. So it's like that to me made me Sega love. Obviously, I remember I'm a kid that grew up in the 80s as well. So it was the Ninja craze. And I saw Shinobi for the first time.
And arcade Shinobi was different than console Shinobi.
And I'm an arcade Shinobi guy. I remember going, I was like, yo, this is amazing. You had ninja magic and a bonus day. And there was this one kid on the block. His name was Don, and he was so talented. This was the Dark Souls of my time.
Yes.
One ninja magic,
Because money was
one
on the
life.
line. You didn't have infinite time to just
Yeah.
reload. You got to put the quarters in.
Yeah, you put the quarters in. You have one life. You get hit with one bullet. Your character is dead. That's it. You could just jump from up and down, and that was it. And this kid was such a savant and one of the most challenging in this game, and he would one quarter this game.
Shout out to Don.
Yeah, I was like, so the nickname in the hood was he was Shinobi. He was Shinobi Don. I was like,
Shinobi Don.
As a kid,
where I
was like, yo,
bless you.
I have to own that game, and I have to be as good as Shinobi. So, a true story. This is what happened as I got older. I kept this promise to myself. I was like, I'm going to own that game. And obviously, you get the math system. And it's like, okay, it's not the same. But I remember as I got older, the arcade scene started to die, and there was a Texas arcade distributor getting rid of all these arcade games.
You do not have
on eBay. I have the arcade,
right?
Wow, Shinobi mailed to my house. Here's the funny part of the story.
Wow,
they shipped it in the South to the South Bronx. A big 18-wheel Optimus Prime style truck gets out. It's crated. They drop it in front of our house. He's like, "Oh, so I'm like, all right. Well, you got to go up 3 flights of stairs." He's like, "No, we don't. My job is done. You got to figure that out."
I hope you have a dolly.
Yeah, I called King. I'm like, "What am I going to do?" So then I had to pay for movers to get it up 3 flights of steps. It's still in my mom's place, with my mom's old building where we used to live.
That's amazing.
Like, when are you ever going to come get this thing? I was like, "We're putting it in storage. It's going to get kept." So I had that. I had Rolling Thunder. Those are the two that I had for his time. But I still end up owning the market. I have pictures of it. I did put it up on Twitter. I'll show it to you.
Yeah, I want to see it. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I would love to see it. I was on the verge. So it was arcade cabinets or put a pool in for my family. I opted to put the pool in. So because I finished my basement when I moved into my house. This here is my office here. This is my area. And upstairs is my basement, obviously. But I was so cool. Like I was talking to them all. I had whittled them down. I had them, and I'm like, and then it's like, well, I'm like, if I roll in a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet here, my balls are gonna get cut off. I cannot do this.
It's over, bro. I was bad because I got to the point where I was gonna then make a custom board out of the jammer boards and get the 4-player, do the rest.
Right, because you can do that. Was the other one. I wanted I wanted an authentic one, and then I wanted the one that could do with everything, with the roller balls and the guns and all of it all.
I wanted all of that. I had the whole plan.
And I was like, with custom decals. That's it. That's all you can want.
That's it. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Yeah, man. That was the era. But that was the only thing I was proud of myself. I kept that promise. I was able to get it. You know what I'm saying?
To roll it back into a real thing, before I get to my final question. Now, this has gone on a little longer than I thought, but I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, we having fun.
I don't know if you share this. I'm much more of a critic than you are. And I don't mean that in like a lesser way. I feel like you have a very more optimistic mindset. I'm critical in nature. One of my problems with the way modern game critique anyway is the fact that everything we're talking about, most of modern critics have never experienced.
That is true.
So the breadth of games and experience just isn't there. So it's not like I dismiss it. It's just very, very difficult for me to like listen to anything. You're reviewing a game for the PS5 that you never experienced a comparison on in the PS2. Correct. So how can I take anything that you're saying? Now, I've talked about this with Eric before, and Steven too, is because part of the reason is because the pay is no good.
It's no good.
So you can't retain talent on the level of a Jeremy Parrish or a Colin Moriarty to talk about, like, whereas
who's Colin Moriarty? I'm just kidding.
Right. Or an Eric Kane. You know what I mean?
There you go.
But we should get Colin on this.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've podcasted with Colin before, but
definitely got to get Colin.
Colin's my favorite guy to argue with, and he doesn't even know me.
Man.
No, but I've supported LSM since day one. Since
Colin's great, man.
I think he's the best. Like that's my biggest problem. It's hard for me to like. You go to these big sites that are supposed to be the biggest sites,
Mm-hmm.
but they're all like 25.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I get they're speaking to a certain thing, but I
Mm.
feel like if you're going to talk about games in a critical sense, you got to have that breadth of experience. I get it, the pay doesn't match, so they're not going to retain the talent. But you look at comparative industries, film, whatever,
Yeah.
they retain talent. These guys are like 40, 50 years old talking about film. They can
Mm-hmm.
talk about like Das Boots from the 70s and
You
deer
burn
deer
out on it,
hunting from
man.
the
You burn
80s.
out on it in games.
I
It's just
do
you
you
burn
really, or is
out.
it just because
You
they're
burn
not
out
paying
because
you enough?
it's because the pay sucks
Well,
and the
that's the pay.
fans
It's the
suck
pay.
and
Okay.
everything.
Yeah.
You just get beat up on every angle, man. Like
Mhm.
the bosses are terrible
Yeah.
and that's why I'm so lucky personally. Like with Forbes, like it's been what 13, 14 years now I've been there and they, even though like obviously they're not perfect and like there's a bunch of shit I got to deal with, like at least I've never been really censored. Like I can say what I want and I can do, I think at a lot of these places, like all the old timers,
Mm.
anybody who has a real opinion, they get forced out
Mm.
because because they're working for these, they're targeting the younger audience and so you burn out because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of, it's a lot of, I don't want to say ingratitude, but it's not like people are always mad at you for your
Right.
opinion. You write
That's
about
true.
video games, you're talking about video games, people are
Very
mad at
true.
you, whether you like it, whether you hate it, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
say, like you're getting beat up and then your bosses suck and like, yeah. So it's the churn is real. Like
Yeah.
the churn is real. Like young
Yeah.
people are working these jobs because they don't, because everybody else is burnt out, you know?
No, it's real. It's unfortunate because I
Yeah.
understand your point, Jason. It's we should have our senior, sages that have that breadth of knowledge that have seen so you can give proper context and
Right.
perspective
For
to these
this
franchise. Right.
long
For this
running,
long story.
decades
Exactly.
running,
Right.
well,
So
and
we
not
have
just decades running. The fact of the matter is that video games, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject, but like I have my own personal experience with video games,
right.
but you have your own. You have your own.
Right.
There are a bunch of people I know in
Mm-hmm.
video games writing criticism of video, like
I know
or
what you're
who
about to
are
say.
making video games.
Mhm.
They have their own very unique experience that has
Right.
been going for 40 years
Yeah.
or
Right.
30 years or 20, whatever. And that's valuable. And
Absolutely.
it's
For sure.
very, very different from one person to the next.
Yeah.
And
It
and
is,
it
but at
and,
least
and it goes beyond just
they
Mhm.
were on those train tracks. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
we may
They're
not
not
be on the
newcomers.
exact same wavelength, but we're
Mm-hmm.
swimming in the same pool. You know what I mean?
Right. No,
Like
absolutely.
that's my only point. When I listen to a lot of people today who seem to have a voice that have been elevated to a voice on these
Mm.
platforms, it's hard for the like how do they resonate with people that have been playing video games for decades? Like it just
Mm.
they don't they don't have the breadth. You listen to them on podcasts, like, and I don't mean to toot our own horn,
Mm.
but the conversation we just had for 2 hours and 46 minutes, there's very
Fire.
few people having that conversation. You know what I mean?
That's a good
Like,
point.
I mean, it delves into like a certain level of experience, and by no means
Right.
am I some professional or
No,
anything
I
to
get your
that
point.
effect. But
Yeah.
I love video games. I've been in this thing for a long time, and
Mhm.
I pride myself in my knowledge about these different aspects and generations and names and how it's evolved and these
Mhm.
traditions. And it hasn't carried forward in the conversation of critical
Yeah.
nature, which I think
Mhm.
is extremely important because I don't think any other medium, music, movies,
Mhm. Talk it.
TV,
Talk
you
it.
look at the critical voices, a lot of them aren't that young. And if
Right.
they are
Well,
wise beyond their years.
but I think it's
Mm.
also important to acknowledge that it's important to have both. It's
It,
really important to
it
have the
is,
new
yes.
voices also, like the
Mhm.
voices that are coming up. Like I remember being young and like coming up into all the stuff,
Mhm.
poetry, literature, movies, whatever, and like having my own perspective from the perspective of someone young and new. That's
Mhm.
important too. That's
Mhm.
also important.
But
It's
Eric, let me
important
preface
Absolutely.
also
this.
to have the older and wiser and more experienced. It's so important. And video games specifically it's a very young medium.
Mhm.
So it sort of holds a unique place in that critical spectrum, I guess.
One thing I will say is, like, when I listen to a young movie critic, for instance, in a podcast I listen to,
You want to slap him in the face.
No. But
I
they
do,
listen,
personally.
like, now,
Sorry.
again,
I'm
it's
sorry.
the nature of the medium where you can consume, in a night, you could probably watch 5 films if you're really dedicated, right? Where you can't do that with games. So it's completely different. I get it. But, like, if I listen to a young movie critic, they've flirted with the 70s, the 60s, the 40s films, the Citizen Kanes.
Right,
the
they've
things
got
like
a
that.
deep
like,
well to draw from.
Tried to.
I know where you're
Whereas
going.
if I jump on, like, I'll give an example, and I'm not going to call names, but I jump on a recent Min-Max podcast, and there's people talking about games, and like, well, I haven't played that. I'm like, man, that was on the PS360 era. That was like not long ago.
Right.
And we're talking about, like, big game. I'm not talking about, like, small games. I'm talking about, like, big games, like temple games. And that conversation seems to go on and on and on and on. And it's like, I get it. It's a new medium, but the average video game player is well into the 30s.
Well,
right?
And also, I'm just going to once again point to this this difference between mediums, which is that, like, if you want to be, like, really good at film or TV, like, you want to talk about those things, I can watch 20 movies in the space of one video game.
Good point. Good point.
So if I'm going to be a knowledgeable, and so personally, I mean, again, that's why I've moved more and more towards television and movies from video games, just from a point of view of, like, personal, like, well-being. I love video games, but, like, dealing with them professionally is difficult. Whereas I can watch TV. So like, not only is there a longer history of film and television to draw from, but you can literally watch, like, 20 of the most classic films of all time in the span of one Final Fantasy game.
Sure.
So it makes it very, very, very difficult to have.
I tossed that softball out there just to get a conversation. It wasn't definitive. I agree with everything you're saying. But
I took your softball and I threw it.
And I threw it back
at it. I just
a hard ball.
Just threw it back at you. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that on top of what you're saying, the form actually matters.
Yeah,
the form matters. Like, it takes 5 seconds to look at a painting. It takes 1 hour to watch a television show. It takes 2.5 hours to watch a movie. It takes 65 hours to play a video game.
Fair enough.
And not only does it take 65 hours to play a video game, it takes time to get good at it enough to play it well.
It is not passive. It is interactive.
Now, don't get me wrong. To look at a painting for 5 seconds and assess it in a way that is intelligible and interesting and all that takes time too.
But at the same time, what you're saying,
different.
Like, my critical analysis of a piece of art is as valid at 5 minutes as it is as 3 years. It's just a different analysis. I get it.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
Well, and nobody's paying anybody to fucking assess art, for one thing. So, but
that's a good point.
But, like, criticism is one thing that I hate as a critic personally is people who are like, critics just want to make the things that they critique, like, they can't do it right. It's like, you know what, actually, like, it's a different form of work. Like, I critique things, you make things. If I made things, it would be a different skill set than you critiquing them. Some people are very good at critiquing, some people are very good at making. It's not the same thing, and like, from one genre or from one form or medium to the next, it's different, and that matters. And I think that's worth thinking about, and, like, it's worth thinking about also in economic terms. I would never, ever in a million years suggest to any young person that they try to become a video game critic.
No.
What a stupid idea. Work at Burger King, motherfucker. It's so much more profitable. Like,
do you have anything else on this? Or?
Just to add on, Jess, I agree with both what you're saying. I think the perspective on the medium is important. For me, I think also what I struggle with critical reviews now is I feel like there's a lack of people who have experience with different genres of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a result, if they don't play that genre, their perspective, I feel, is not really accurate to someone who is
I
actually
so agree.
in
I
that
so agree with
space.
this.
And that's my struggle. So, like, again,
But
not to
And they
attack
can
someone
can I ask you something real quick? As you say that, I just want to interject. It's okay if they admit that.
Yes, that's the key. And
Right.
I'm not seeing things weighed with that value system, right? Where it's like, hey, I don't play this genre. I don't usually play
This is
these
my
style of games, but
perspective
this is my
without
perspective.
that's
Right.
totally valid.
Yes,
But
that's
these
cool.
people coming in and they're like, they try to review it with clearly no knowledge of it.
Exactly.
That's frustrating.
And that's the
fuck,
frustrating
dude.
part, because if
Yeah.
you love these genres that are being critiqued and you see the lack of knowledge of people with no experience in the space, and it reflects in the quality of it, and then it translates. This also now gets me into my little pet peeve with the award show sometimes, because it's like, man, like, if they had proper representation, at least of people that play the genre, even if we know that people don't have enough time to play all these games. We get that,
of course,
right? But
it's
get
impossible.
people who actually play that genre review these games. I used to be a sports game guy. I come from the NHL 94s,
Dude, I loved an
NBA Live.
NHL games were great, and 2K NHL and shit.
Remember?
Fuck yeah,
Exactly.
dude. Fucking fun as shit. I love that shit.
Oh, that's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. I did a whole presentation. I did a presentation.
You get that slap shot in there
about that game.
Oh, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Feels
good.
Running game, presentation, narration, everything is the best. Never got better.
But yeah. Sure. This idea, and I read these reviews, and it's the same thing in television. It's the same thing in movies. You read these reviews, and I am 100% fine with somebody who's not into fantasy reviewing fantasy shows. That's a valuable critique of a fantasy show.
Yeah, it gives you a different perspective.
It's a very valuable critique. But if they do not admit to being not a fantasy person, they just review it without that admission, then it's kind of a lie. And so if you go into if I was going to review Tekken or something, I would fully admit, man, I'm not a good fighter. I'm not good at this shit. I'm not a noob. I've been playing for years and I've always sucked. But I've played a bunch of these games, and this is my feeling. You've got to just admit it up front.
Admit it. That's the thing. And that's my frustration, because this bleeds into my bigger pet peeve with the awards. There's no admission that these genres are not getting played, and thus are not. There's a devaluing of only this type of genre is the de facto quality game.
Absolutely,
that drives me crazy.
That drives me crazy. Yeah,
people don't play these other games at all, have no experience, and literally now there's this narrative out of it, and that's why I just hope we get better in the critique space. I really, again, hope that there is at least an effort put towards these other subgenres of game that I love, and I'm like, man, they can't get a fair shake out here. At least
I just think the critical analysis of this video games is sorely lacking. It won't be better because of
it's immature.
It's going to happen here, but unfortunately, our voice isn't big enough. I'm not saying here. I'm talking about the Royal here. LSM, but even LSM has a small corner pocket, regardless of whatever it is. It's not like you're hitting hundreds of thousands of people. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I mean, I've been fighting for honest criticism for years, and it's very difficult.
This is what my push to Pierre Steiner was all those years ago. I'm like, you have this opportunity to elevate the conversation beyond the other thing. They seem to cater to this lower denominator. Okay,
everything does.
Take
always.
Your time. You can build your IGN. You have all the eyeballs. I get it, but I mean,
SEO baby.
But quality, but also quality begets money too. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting. You're fighting.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's that short term versus long term. Dark Souls. Dark Souls took every fucking everything that had to do with games at that time. Long tutorials. Look at Skyward Sword. Long tutorials. Walkthroughs, hand holding. Dark Souls said, "Fuck it," and they did it. Now they sell 20.
But you know what's crazy? You
sell
know what's
20
crazy?
million.
There's an entire subgenre called Souls-likes
Exactly.
that still does not understand what makes Dark Souls good.
Fair enough. Exactly. It adopts the name,
Literally
but it
dozens
doesn't
of
take the lesson.
developers have tried to recapture the magic of Dark Souls without fundamentally understanding what makes it wonderful. And that is what makes all of this okay. When Pulp Fiction came out in whatever 1992 or whatever the fuck it was, when Pulp Fiction came out, it spawned an entire new genre of crime film. And almost none of those
Because
films
it challenged the audience.
Understood what
said,
made
like,
Pulp Fiction
I have
fucking
something
good.
to say, and you're going to sit and listen to it no matter how long it takes, how much patience I try. It didn't.
Do you know when Reservoir Dogs came out? When Reservoir Dogs came out, you remember that scene? You remember that scene where he cuts his ear off?
Of course.
Yeah.
All the test audiences. I mean, they had people walking
They hated
out.
it.
Yeah, everybody hated it. They hated it. And did Quentin Tarantino back down? Did he say, okay, fine, we'll change it? The studios wanted him to change it. Everybody wanted. Everybody wanted. It's a terrible scene. I squirm when I watch it. But you know what?
It's great. It
makes
it
fucking
iconic.
Great.
Yeah,
and that's the fucking problem. It's the problem is that it's that these things that are unnatural and terrible and horrific and awkward and all the things that don't fit nicely, they kind of create the things we love. The things we love are built from all the broken pieces of
Life
the
is
things
messy.
that make us
Our
feel
experiences are
bad.
messy. They're not curated.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point. That's why my favorite color is gray, because it's like that.
Yeah,
that duality. It can't be everything's just great and everything. We're gonna hold hand. I mean, hand hold you through everything. You have to have that balance.
You
and
have
that's
to.
What makes
yeah,
absolutely.
Or that imbalance. It's both.
Yeah, imbalance.
The balance and the imbalance.
I agree.
Are both. I don't know.
Balanced
and imbalanced. I don't know.
You're 100% correct.
And that is where I think games criticism is it's really fundamentally immature. I also think that video game criticism, and this is a whole topic, and I'm sorry. I'm just gonna throw it out there, but like as someone who has been like focused very, 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 very much on the political side of art and entertainment and criticism, video games are it's the one really big medium that has come up in the age of like I hate the word woke. I hate it so much. Okay, but it's come up in the age of like where the political is more important than the art.
I agree.
So like for decades there's been film, and for hundreds of years there's been book criticism. All this criticism has like developed over a long span of time, but with video games specifically,
good point.
It has come up in an era when people are motivated by politics in a way that is fundamentally different from past generations, and that immaturity of like understanding how you are supposed to actually critique a work of art, which I believe video games are a work of art. I think video games are art. I love video games. I love Roger Ebert, my favorite film critic. He did not believe video games are art.
No, he didn't agree.
Wrong.
I think he's fundamentally wrong.
He's fundamentally wrong. I still love him, but I think they are art, and I think it's just that so many of the people talking about video games do not have roots deep enough in the soil of criticism of art to speak about them in a way that is profound or interesting or experienced.
So you agree with me?
Yeah, he agrees.
I don't know. I was on a ramble. I was rambling. Okay,
yeah,
I go on rambles.
Yeah, he took a while to get there, Jay, but we got there.
I was ranting.
No,
I was ranting.
No, bro, no, you was on your bag though. You was in your bag. And,
I apologize.
I liked it. I liked it.
I had to get there somehow.
So let's
I had to jump, and I had to like wall jump between two different walls.
triple jump.
And
You
there was
gain
like
that skill in
spikes.
between.
And
You found a way. You got to the end game.
You know, I got there.
I'm gonna ask. This is one thing I want to add into the podcast as it's brand new. And I stole this from another podcast. Okay,
Let's go.
and it's a question I want to ask to guests when we do have them. It's what aren't we talking about in gaming or focusing on or expounding on that you think we should be?
I think Eric kind of alluded to what I wanted to say, which is we talked about this being an art form, and I am so pro developer, and I'm a person that likes to respect the vision, the true vision of what they want to create, uninterrupted, unimpeded. That's their vision without the outside influences, whether it be political or whatever. And I think we talked about like Souls. I'm not even a Souls guy, but I respect
I'm done.
what
I'm
it
sorry.
is attempting to do. I know we're over. I know the friendship's
I'm kidding.
but I respect it because I'm like, look, this is unapologetically difficult. We are not going to give you. Yeah, we're not going to give you 1,000 tutorials, Jason, right? We're not going to sit there, okay, at this part, you're going to do this, and then we're going to give you a little, cut scene or how it's supposed to be done. No,
we give you a hard motherfucking boss.
Exactly.
From the beginning. Have to fight him. You're going to learn that you don't have to fight him.
Exactly. And the same thing with messaging. It's like, I get it. Like, not everything is going to be rose. There's going to be uncomfortable decisions or uncomfortable, topics within gaming and stuff like that. As long as that is the true intent of the creator, I am for it. Let them have their vision. So,
fuck yeah.
I get attacked sometimes, even sometimes with the accessibility stuff, and I get it. I want to be sensitive to certain things, but at the same time, respect the creator's vision if that's what they want.
I feel that really hard with the accessibility stuff. Like I am 100%. Like if you want to bring in accessibility stuff to your game, I am for it 100%. Yeah. But if your vision is that this is going to be fucking hard, no matter what you are, who you are, where you come from,
right?
That's your vision too.
Right. And
I support them both.
And it's okay that they have that vision because it's like, okay, you know what? It's not for me. Not everyone's going to have the championship.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of shit I can't play. I can't fly shit in video games. You put me in a cockpit of a plane or a helicopter, I'm done for. I'm dead. I can't play it. And I don't want them to make it easier for me. It's fine. You don't ask. I'm done.
And that's why I dismiss all the Souls games need this and such mode. That is
no easy mode.
Because the truth is those games actually aren't all that difficult when you really want.
The most hilarious thing is when Sekiro added, they have a thing, an item you can get that makes it harder. That's the most funniest thing in the world.
And this is another thing I don't give a fuck.
That game's fucking stupid hard.
This is like a get off my lawn shit.
There we go.
But it was a trial by fire type of thing. Like, bro, we had to get good. We had to get better. We had to improve, or we just started over. There was no guide. There was no cheat. There was nothing. There was no easy mode.
There's no YouTube video to go watch how it's done either.
Yeah, and you had $60 worth of quarters, and you were done.
Yeah, that was real money.
Or it was console. Like,
you're playing against people. You go fucking hustle some people with Pog. I don't know. Like, yeah.
Like, I remember, like in Fantasy
fucking
Star.
Good. Shit.
I was on Fantasy Star. I got a passport that took me to another planet that I found randomly, and I didn't think that was possible in a video game. Yes, all of a sudden, I was on an airship that I found randomly, and I was going, and
classic.
There was nothing to help me on that, and I just found it organically. Today, it's like, actually, and I won't expound this, Steve and I had a wonderful conversation about specifically Elden Ring and Souls game in general, in terms of, and his point was that based on that point, Souls games have actually curated a second life on forcing people to go online and create this other narrative for themselves to figure this stuff out. And it's like a smart way for them to do it. Anyway, if you ever listen to that, then that's its own thing. Yeah. But yeah, like, I have no patience for that. Games, I want creators to give me the games that they want, how they want, and how I'm supposed to play them, bar none.
Preach.
Now, I get accessibility. I get AAA games.
Yeah, go loot boxes. Oh, sorry.
Whatever. But and those have to be as such. And if that needs to be the way you want to sell your game, so be it. But I will never begrudge a creator of whatever game saying, no, this is the way it is, and I want you to experience it as such. Because more often than not, regardless of pushback, people will fall in line. If it's good enough, if it's doing what it's supposed to be, if it's doing what it's supposed to do, it's playing how it's supposed to do, it's giving you the feedback it's supposed to do, the visual language, whatever, eventually people will get it. And it'll catch on.
Or not. Yeah. Which is fine.
Or not, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fine too. I still support it. Yeah.
And I guess that's the end of this podcast. A little bit longer than we expected, but honestly, this is an amazing conversation. It was therapeutic.
This was dope. Important conversation.
I didn't drop a single F-bomb this entire podcast, so I'm really happy about that. What? You called me a lie? No, this was really fun. And I'm so glad we had this conversation. Because, I mean, honestly, like, sometimes I feel pretty out of touch because over the last decade, the industry has been, I guess, sort of chaotic and horrible. And I've been a little like, I feel like someone lost at sea a little bit. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air to talk with people who have a different grasp on it than I do, and to share thoughts. And that was very nice. So
nice exchange, brother. Yeah, nice exchange. Yeah, just first of all, thanks for the invite. This was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun.
We went on a lot of but really important tangents, and I felt necessary that I don't talk about. And to me, it always comes down to getting back to why we're here, the enjoyment of video games. And I feel like a lot of times the general mass has lost that. And I like that we got back to why we love these things.
Yeah.
And I think,
why are we here? Exactly.
Yeah. Like, why are we doing it? Right. Because we had those feelings we had as kids or in the arcade or wherever we experienced it for the first time. I want to see more of that. Yeah. People's like, yo, I am having a good time playing this thing that I love. I miss that.
Absolutely. When my kid was when my youngest was a little boy, we took him to preschool at a church, and one day they had a big board where it said it was a Thanksgiving board. What are you grateful for? And all the kids had little messages. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my sister. I'm grateful for this and that. And my boy, his little note was, I'm grateful for video games.
Woo!
And so, you know what? I felt at that moment, I was like, you know what? This is it. This is what I want to do. I want to preach a little bit. I want to pass on the good word of like this thing that is good. It is good for people.
Absolutely.
Just like going to the gym is good for you. Just like going and being around people, going around and having good food, making good food, playing video games, playing tabletop games, playing games, enjoying life. That's what we're here for. And this was a lovely podcast that I feel like really captured that. So thank you guys.
Love.
So long and short of it, have kids, pass on the knowledge. And you too, give the blessing of video games to the next generation. You know what I mean?
We got to pass it on. Facts.
Spread some fucking chaos. I don't know, man. Whatever.
All the contact information I'll put in the notes of this
Appreciate
podcast.
It, brother.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Welcome. A long time coming. Sorry I got sick
all good, brother.
last week, but here we are.
I had a complete mental breakdown. So, sick is no big deal.
I had to bring him back from the break.
Okay, I'm a crazy motherfucker, so it's okay.
No, we always
try not to have more of those.
You're a video game music guy. I don't know if you remembered to, but I did put it in the notes that there was a musical selection that was going to be up to you. Do you have it?
Yes, I do.
All right, what is it?
So it's Tekken 8 because we're going to stay on the fighting game.
Good.
Right. One of the best tracks in Tekken 8 is called the Twilight Party Cruise. And it's from their new character. His name is Victor. He's French. He's actually a famous actor. I put the link for the YouTube in there so you can check out. I'm telling you right,
Oh
this
yes,
thing.
I see it. Yes.
Oh my god, it's knocking. It's like jazz with rock. It is. I'm like, what is happening with this beat? And it's amazing. In a fighting game where I'm like jamming too much and I'm losing concentration in what I'm supposed to be doing every time I get on that thing.
That is what video game music should do.
There we go.
It should kind of fucking be a new challenge to you actually doing good at the game. So yes, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, shout out to
Okay.
Batman.
We're gonna leave you with that feeling.
Yes.
Cog, we're gonna do this again, time willing.
Yes. Absolutely.
Schedule willing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad your voice held up. You look handsome with your gelled hair.
Thank you. It took a lot of work. I spent 3 seconds on it.
My wife hates me. My kids have been up all night. Thank you very much. All right. Bless. This has been Game Night episode 7. Peace, everybody.
Much love.